A woman in a flowing blue dress stands alone by an elegant fountain as the evening begins. Nicolette brushes her hair back, appearing calm despite the whispers starting to circulate among the other guests. Nearby, a pink-haired girl and a blonde woman watch her closely, clearly unhappy with her presence. The blonde woman instructs her companion to keep a close watch on Zayden and keep him away from Nicolette. Nicolette makes her way toward the main building while the two women follow closely behind her. The blonde woman confronts her, questioning why she decided to show up for her grandfather's birthday. Nicolette explains she's only there because her grandfather specifically requested her presence for his 80th celebration. Other guests begin to gossip about the mysterious woman in blue, wondering whose wife she might be. Ignoring the stares, the blonde woman grabs Nicolette's arm and tries to lead her further into the party. Nicolette pulls back, insisting that she won't go in until her husband arrives. This revelation catches the blonde woman completely off guard, as she hadn't realized Nicolette was married. Deciding not to wait any longer, Nicolette heads inside alone, assuming her husband is simply running late. The blonde woman watches her go, thinking mockingly about Nicolette's social standing. Nicolette enters the crowded ballroom, standing out in her vibrant gown among the other socialites. A man named Zayden notices her immediately, his expression shifting to one of shock. Nicolette looks startled as she realizes she's been spotted by someone from her past. Zayden approaches with a polite smile, while the pink-haired girl fumes in the background. The pink-haired girl quickly intervenes, pulling Nicolette away under the guise of needing to catch up. Nicolette is dragged through the crowd, unable to break free from the girl's tight grip. They approach a stern-looking older woman named Marie in the middle of a large group. Marie looks Nicolette up and down with a deeply judgmental expression. Marie grabs Nicolette's hand and forces her to face the crowd for an unwanted introduction. She presents Nicolette to the room, making sure everyone knows who has returned. With a condescending look, Marie mentions that Nicolette has spent the last year working as a fashion designer. The surrounding guests exchange skeptical looks, clearly unimpressed by Nicolette's career. Marie then turns her attention to Nicolette's outfit, commenting on the dress she chose for the occasion. Her eyes lock onto the intricate light blue charms Nicolette is wearing around her neck. Marie smirks, sensing an opportunity to publicly humiliate her relative. She loudly claims that the necklace is nothing more than a cheap set made of rhinestones. The pink-haired girl aggressively grabs Nicolette's wrist to inspect her bracelet as well. She points out that the jewelry looks like an unreleased designer collection, accusing Nicolette of wearing fakes. Nicolette looks away, internally questioning if her husband actually bought her counterfeit items. The girl tosses Nicolette's arm back, dismissing the accessories as worthless junk. She mocks Nicolette, accusing her of trying to embarrass their grandfather at his own party. Nicolette stands in silence, looking down as the weight of the public insult sinks in. Marie offers to let Nicolette borrow a different set of jewelry, just so the family doesn't look poor. The pink-haired girl immediately starts a tantrum, complaining about her own jewelry issues to her mother. Nicolette realizes the entire situation is just a calculated attempt to mock her. She looks Marie in the eye and firmly declines the offer to borrow anything from them. Nicolette reaches up, deciding it's better to remove the jewelry herself than to deal with their insults. The blonde woman returns with Zayden, asking the group what they find so amusing. The pink-haired girl looks like she's on the verge of tears while continuing her complaints. Zayden remains silent, watching the unfolding drama with a neutral expression. The blonde woman notices his intense focus on Nicolette and looks at him with concern. She warns the younger girl that her behavior might lead to her being disowned if their grandfather hears her. The pink-haired girl trembles with frustration, her face turning red from anger. She grits her teeth, refusing to let the matter go or admit she might be wrong. In a sudden outburst, she lunges forward and rips the jewelry right off Nicolette. Outside the venue, a high-end white sports car screeches to a halt, drawing attention to the entrance. An impeccably dressed man steps out of the vehicle and heads toward the party. Inside, the girl holds up the stolen charms while the other guests watch the scene unfold. She continues to shout, calling Nicolette an absolute embarrassment to the entire family. She holds the jewelry high for everyone to see, determined to finish her public takedown. The newcomer enters the building, his presence immediately catching the eye of every woman in the room. He slams his hand against the doorframe, demanding everyone's attention with a single gesture. The man calls out for his wife, finally arriving to back her up in front of the hostile crowd. Maya suddenly appears and pulls Nicolette into a warm, supportive embrace. She expresses how much she truly missed her friend, ignoring the surrounding tension. The pink-haired girl watches the scene with a look of pure annoyance. She insults Maya for defending someone she considers a social outcast. Maya doesn't hesitate and begins marching forward with a determined stride. She delivers a sharp, resounding slap across the pink-haired girl's face. The girl is left stunned, clutching her burning cheek in total disbelief. Maya calls her out for her past behavior, reminding everyone that Nicolette was the real victim in their previous drama. The girl continues to hold her face, looking around for anyone to take her side. She bursts into dramatic tears while Maya remains completely unimpressed by the display. The blonde woman watches the escalating chaos with a cold, calculating gaze. Nicolette looks on, her expression filled with a mix of exhaustion and sadness. The blonde woman warns Nicolette to keep things under control to avoid more public gossip. Nicolette clenches her dress, her frustration reaching a breaking point. She finally snaps, shouting for the petty bickering to end immediately. She stands her ground, threatening to tell her grandfather exactly what has been happening. Aunt Marie steps in to comfort the crying girl, while shooting a venomous look at Nicolette. Marie demands that Nicolette leave the party and go back to wherever she came from. Nicolette is shocked by her aunt's blatant lack of support. The pink-haired girl takes the opportunity to physically shove Nicolette away. Nicolette falls to the floor as the surrounding crowd begins chanting for her to get out. She looks down at the ground, feeling completely humiliated and abandoned. Suddenly, a polished black shoe enters the frame, marking a shift in the room's energy. A charismatic man walks into the center of the hall, drawing every eye in the room. The guests are immediately struck by his intense presence and good looks. Even the blonde woman is forced to admit he has incredible charm, despite his simple suit. Nicolette looks up with tear-filled eyes and offers a quiet apology. The man reaches down and places a comforting hand on her head. Benjamin reveals himself, telling her that he arrived as quickly as possible. The crowd begins to whisper, wondering who this mysterious newcomer could be. Nicolette stands up and throws her arms around her husband, feeling safe for the first time all night. She smiles through her tears, relieved that he showed up when she needed him most. Benjamin gently holds her, asking if she sustained any injuries during her fall. Nicolette explains that the high heels he chose were what threw her off balance. He immediately kneels to remove her shoes to ensure she is comfortable. Benjamin focuses on checking her feet for any signs of strain or injury while she sits in a nearby chair. He then turns his sharp gaze toward the crowd, demanding to know exactly what happened. Marie tries to challenge him, questioning his authority to interfere. Benjamin's eyes narrow as he prepares to address the hostile relatives. He formally introduces himself as Benjamin Jacek, Nicolette's husband. He asserts that he has every right to defend his wife from their mistreatment. Marie and the pink-haired girl can only scowl in frustration at his intervention. Benjamin maintains a stern and unyielding expression as he looks over the group. He spots Nicolette's stolen charms still clutched in the pink-haired girl's hand. Benjamin holds out his hand and firmly demands that she return the stolen items immediately. The blonde woman tries to play it off as a simple misunderstanding between family members. Benjamin completely ignores her and keeps his focus on the girl holding the charms. The two women look on with visible irritation, hating his dominant attitude. The sound of a cane thumping against the floor echoes through the room. The large doors swing open, signaling the arrival of the most important guest. Grandpa enters the hall, leaning on his cane and supported by an assistant. Nicolette watches him with a concerned expression, noticing how much he has aged. The blonde woman instantly shifts her demeanor, putting on a fake, polite smile. She rushes over to the old man, attempting to gain his favor by offering her help. Grandpa isn't interested and dismisses her touch with a sharp movement of his hand. He demands an explanation for the noise and the lack of decency on display. The relatives all look down, cowed by the elder's stern reprimand. Grandpa lets out a heavy sigh, clearly disappointed by the family's behavior. He orders everyone to stop the drama and move the gathering inside. Nicolette watches him walk away, her heart heavy with worry for his health. She realizes that the stress of the family's infighting is taking a visible toll on him. Benjamin reaches out and takes her hand in a supportive gesture. He tells her it's time to go, leading her forward with confidence. Nicolette looks at him with deep appreciation, thankful for his unwavering support. The hostile relatives can only watch as the couple walks away together hand in hand. The pink-haired girl mutters that Nicolette is far luckier than she deserves to be. The blonde woman remains silent, her expression filled with resentment toward Nicolette's situation. Grandpa stares down the room and demands to know what really happened while Eleanor sits on the floor. He slams his cane down, losing his patience with the lies. Eleanor puts on a fake performance, crying and begging for forgiveness to stay in his good graces. A flashback reveals Marie coached Eleanor to play the victim so Grandpa would side with them. Eleanor was skeptical at first, but she went along with the manipulative plan. Marie assured her that as a Libov, she could have any man she wanted, and Grandpa's favor wouldn't change that. Back in the present, Eleanor continues her act, sobbing that everything is her fault. Beneath the tears, she hides a wicked smirk, confident that she's still the favorite. Maya and Nicolette watch the fake display with pure disgust. They can't believe how easily this girl can cry on command, just to manipulate the situation. Grandpa watches the scene with a cold, unreadable expression. His mood shifts instantly when he spots Nicolette and calls her over. He looks genuinely relieved and happy to see her back home. Nicolette approaches her grandfather with a mix of sadness and respect. Marie watches the reunion, her expression remaining cold and calculating. Respecting tradition, Nicolette immediately drops to her knees before the patriarch. She shows her humility by kneeling on the floor in front of him. Benjamin watches the interaction closely, remaining silent but attentive. Grandpa is overjoyed, telling her to get up because he's missed her dearly. Overwhelmed with emotion, Nicolette apologizes for staying away for so long. She bows her head to the floor, showing her deep regret. Benjamin stands by her side as she finishes her formal apology. Grandpa notices the man and asks who exactly is accompanying her. Nicolette proudly introduces Benjamin as her husband. Benjamin steps forward and offers a gift box as a sign of respect for the birthday. Grandpa tells them both to stand up, claiming he doesn't need material things at his age. He lets out a small laugh, seemingly amused by the gesture. He gestures for his assistant to take the gift for him. Benjamin hands over the present while Nicolette looks on with a smile. Internally, Nicolette worries that her grandfather might not approve of her choice in a husband. Maya steps in next, offering her own enthusiastic birthday wishes to the old man. Eleanor thinks she can finally stand up and move on, but she is quickly corrected. Grandpa barks an order for her to stay on her knees where she belongs. Marie tries to defend her daughter, questioning why she's being punished. Maya isn't having it and points out that Eleanor stole Nicolette's belongings. Eleanor looks visibly annoyed that her scheme is being exposed. She tries to justify her actions, claiming she was just removing a fake accessory to save the family's reputation. Grandpa gives Marie a stern look, showing he isn't buying any of their excuses. Marie tells Maya to back off, insisting that this is strictly a family matter. Maya is stunned that they are still trying to shut her out of the conversation. Benjamin steps forward, deciding it's time to end the nonsense. He firmly demands that Eleanor return the stolen keepsake immediately. Marie shields Eleanor, who flinches and tries to hide behind her mother. Grandpa's face contorts with rage as he realizes his family has been lying to him. He slams his cane into the floor with a loud thump, demanding the item be produced. Eleanor is terrified, realizing that her grandfather's anger is now fully directed at her. Seeing no other choice, she reaches into her pocket to pull out the stolen charm. She throws the diamond keepsake onto the floor in a fit of petulance. The sound of the cane hitting the floor echoes through the silent room once more. Grandpa is absolutely outraged by the blatant disrespect and theft. Nicolette rushes to his side, telling him to take a deep breath and stay calm. He looks out at the gathered crowd, asking if they all think he's just a senile old fool. The antagonists look away, unable to face his intense scrutiny. Grandpa decides he can no longer stay silent about his plans for the future. He stands before the entire room, preparing to make a life-changing announcement. Eleanor watches with bated breath, wondering what news is about to drop. Suddenly, a hand slams against the door, interrupting the tense moment. Nicolette and Benjamin turn their heads to see who has arrived. A stylish man in a white suit leans against the doorway, ready to join the chaos. A blonde man in a white suit makes a grand entrance, waving to the crowd with a confident smile. Benjamin watches the newcomer with a cold, analytical gaze as the partygoers murmur in the background. The blonde man's smug grin is contrasted sharply against Benjamin's stern and unimpressed expression. The newcomer, identified as Mr. Lane, stands casually beside Benjamin, noticing the heavy atmosphere in the room. Nicolette and Maya look on, with Maya feeling a sense of relief at the arrival of their unexpected ally. Grandpa demands to know who Mr. Lane is looking for at his birthday celebration. The blonde man greets Grandpa with feigned surprise, acknowledging the patriarch's presence. He requests that Grandpa call him Christian, joking about the trouble he'd face if his own family heard him being addressed formally. Nicolette recognizes him as Christian Lane, a man known for his intelligence and reputation. She imagines the flamboyant newcomer interacting playfully with the stern grandpa. Benjamin immediately covers Nicolette's eyes, demanding she stop paying attention to the other man. Nicolette teases Benjamin about his jealousy, assuring him that the newcomer is no threat to him. In a light-hearted moment, the group discusses Christian's overly flashy white outfit. Maya joins the critique, calling him loud and questioning his reputation as a refined intellectual. Nicolette asks Maya if the handsome newcomer actually arrived specifically to see her. An annoyed Maya insists that Christian is only there to provide support for their side. Maya is taken aback when Christian turns his attention toward her with a serious look. Christian performs a clinical check of Maya's face, claiming he heard she was mistreated while he was away for a moment. Eleanor watches the scene with concern, wondering who could have possibly harmed Maya. Grandpa becomes outraged, asking if Maya was bullied along with Nicolette. While Maya is confused by the claim, Christian gives her a subtle wink to signal his plan. Maya realizes Christian is exaggerating the situation to corner their enemies. She plays along, scolding him for not arriving sooner to stop the attempt to evict Nicolette. Christian apologizes to Grandpa, acting as if he was completely unaware of the earlier drama. The two allies share a quick handshake, confirming they are a formidable team against the family. Grandpa turns his fury on Eleanor, ordering her to apologize to Maya immediately. Eleanor breaks down in tears, shouting that she never physically laid a hand on anyone. Marie tries to intervene, claiming that Grandpa is being far too aggressive with her daughter. The entire room remains in a tense standoff as the family's internal conflicts are laid bare. A hand presents a delicate keepsake as part of the ongoing argument. Marie argues that Eleanor was only trying to help Nicolette avoid the embarrassment of wearing a fake charm. Benjamin and Christian watch as Nicolette firmly states she treasures the gift from her husband regardless of its value. Christian interrupts, pointing out that the jewelry is actually a rare, first-edition piece from a famous collection. A woman in the crowd is stunned to learn that Nicolette's supposedly fake item is actually an incredibly valuable original. Marie is stunned to hear that the keepsake is actually a rare first-edition masterpiece. She immediately questions Benjamin, wondering if he was the one who provided such an expensive gift. Benjamin remains stoic, offering no immediate explanation for the high-end item. With a knowing smile, he prepares to shift the focus of the conversation. He suggests that everyone should be asking Christian Lane about the gift instead, catching the flamboyant intellectual off guard. The entire crowd turns their attention toward Christian, putting him right in the spotlight. Christian realizes he has to play along with Benjamin's narrative to maintain the group's cover. He strikes a dramatic pose and confirms that he was indeed the one who gifted the valuable necklace. Nicolette watches in confusion, wondering why Christian would ever give her such a lavish piece of jewelry. Benjamin shoots Christian a look that demands he keep the story straight and convincing. Maya acts shocked, questioning the claims that the jewelry was ever considered fake. Christian steps in and claims he bought the gift for Nicolette on Maya's behalf, since they are such close friends. The two allies continue their performance, though the situation remains chaotic for the onlookers. Christian laughs off the tension, doubling down on the fact that the accessory is a genuine designer original. Nicolette realizes Benjamin lied about the gift being cheap, making her wonder what else he's hiding. She plays along, thanking her friends for the generous gift, while the antagonists fume. Nicolette begins to suspect that Benjamin and Christian have a much deeper connection than they let on. Benjamin offers a subtle smirk, clearly enjoying how his plan is coming together. The family patriarch laughs at the situation, seemingly satisfied with the explanation. He taps his cane on the floor to signal that the argument is officially over. Grandpa declares the whole thing a misunderstanding and demands that Eleanor apologize to Nicolette. Eleanor stands in stunned silence, overwhelmed by the sudden shift in power. Other family members try to move the crowd toward the dining area to escape the awkwardness. They attempt to lead Grandpa away before he can cause any more drama. However, Grandpa insists that Nicolette sit right next to him at the head table. He leads her away from the cousins' table, much to the annoyance of the other heirs. One of the women tries to protest, arguing that Nicolette isn't a true member of the family line. Grandpa shuts her down instantly, affirming that Nicolette is his granddaughter regardless of her last name. He issues a stern warning that anyone calling her an outsider will be banished from the house. Nicolette looks back at the crowd, shocked by her grandfather's fierce and public defense. She spots Benjamin watching her from across the room as she is led away. Benjamin gives her a reassuring nod, acknowledging that she has finally secured her place in the family. Nicolette offers a small smile as she follows her grandfather to the main table. From the shadows, a mysterious man watches the scene unfold with a dark expression. He clenches his fist in frustration, bitter that Nicolette is now associated with someone else. He stares at Benjamin, wondering who this man is and how he has such powerful connections. The man continues to eye Benjamin with intense suspicion, determined to figure out his true identity. The grand estate glows under the crescent moon as the celebration continues inside. Guests fill the dining hall, engaging in lively chatter around the tables. A man in a purple shirt stands to deliver a toast, thanking everyone for attending the patriarch's milestone birthday. Benjamin remains composed as he watches the man drink, while thoughts of social etiquette circulate. The host believes that a single mistake in manners could ruin one's reputation at such a high-profile event. Red beverage is poured into a glass as the conversation continues. The host looks skeptical, wondering if the patriarch has left Benjamin to fend for himself. Benjamin maintains a calm demeanor, stating that he is content as long as the elder is happy. The host raises his glass again, seemingly surprised by Benjamin's lack of concern. He asks for Benjamin's name, realizing they haven't been formally introduced. Benjamin looks the man in the eye and clearly states his full name. The host offers a toast to Benjamin for looking out for Nicolette. From the table, Benjamin watches as the man continues to speak to the gathered guests. Benjamin keeps a steady gaze, processing the man's words. Meanwhile, Nicolette shares a meal with her grandfather, her status finally acknowledged. Benjamin reflects on his close relationship with Nicolette and her newfound happiness. He raises his glass to challenge the man's condescending tone. Benjamin questions if the man is overstepping his boundaries by commenting on family dynamics. The two men clink their glasses together in a tense moment of social interaction. Benjamin takes a small sip of the red liquid to evaluate its quality. He identifies the drink as a Petrus, but notes that it lacks the finesse of a superior vintage. In a casual exchange, the men discuss their knowledge of fine beverages. Benjamin explains his expertise comes from observing the preferences of his clients. The host grows curious and asks what kind of work Benjamin actually does. A hand waves from across the room to interrupt their conversation. Christian Lane approaches the table with a friendly greeting for Benjamin. Benjamin acknowledges the newcomer with a relaxed smile while holding his glass. The two share a familiar conversation, leaving the host completely stunned by their rapport. Christian places a friendly hand on Benjamin's shoulder, signaling a close professional bond. The host watches with visible stress, unable to reconcile Benjamin's status with his high-level connections. Christian asks if he can join their table for the remainder of the evening. The host eagerly pours a drink for Christian, considering it a great honor to serve him. Christian takes a moment to assess the aroma of the beverage in his glass. He bluntly critiques the quality of the drink, expressing disappointment in the host's selection. Benjamin suggests that Christian should be a bit more lenient with the host. Christian looks back at Benjamin, considering his advice. Nearby guests are horrified that a newcomer would dare speak so casually to someone of Christian's stature. The host is convinced that Benjamin has made a fatal social error by correcting Christian. Christian remains unbothered, defending his right to an opinion and reminding Benjamin of his help earlier. Benjamin accepts the point and agrees to share another drink with him. He takes another sip, maintaining the flow of their interaction. Christian laughs heartily, enjoying the conversation while the host stays frozen in confusion. The host cannot understand why Christian isn't offended by Benjamin's bluntness. Benjamin's attention shifts as he hears a familiar voice calling out to him. Nicolette rushes toward him with a bright, flushed expression of joy. Benjamin reaches out to greet her as she approaches the table. He holds her close as she excitedly suggests they all toast to her grandfather. Benjamin checks on Nicolette, noting that she seems to have had a bit too much to drink. The host watches the couple with a look of intense jealousy and irritation. He clenches his fist tightly, struggling to contain his frustration with the situation. Another guest leans in to ask the host about Benjamin's true identity. The guests begin to mock Benjamin, dismissing him as unimportant and poorly dressed. Their laughter is cut short by a sudden, violent sound from the table. Christian slams his hand down, shattering a glass and staining the cloth in an outburst of anger. He sternly warns the guests to watch their words and respect those they don't understand. The mockers are left trembling in fear after the sharp reprimand. The host attempts to de-escalate the situation by patting Christian's shoulders and urging calm. He worries that any further commotion will draw the patriarch's ire. Christian turns away with a cold expression, leaving the host to wonder why he only became angry when Benjamin was insulted. The guests look on with interest as the patriarch continues his celebratory speech. Various family members and socialites listen intently to the host's words. Standing at the podium, Grandpa addresses the crowd with a microphone in hand. He officially introduces Nicolette to the high society crowd as his granddaughter. Nicolette is caught off guard by the public reveal, looking a bit shy under the spotlight. Grandpa tells the guests that he won't tolerate any disrespect toward her. Zayden watches with a smirk, anticipating a massive inheritance announcement for himself. However, Grandpa shocks the room by declaring he is signing 10% of the company over to Nikki. Nicolette is completely stunned by the news of this massive gift. Zayden's expression immediately sours as his plans are derailed. Other family members look on in disbelief at the sudden shift in power. The younger guests are equally baffled by the patriarch's decision. The family begins whispering about Nicolette now holding a major stake in the business. Envious glares are directed toward her from those who feel slighted. One of the women tries to protest the decision, but her concerns are ignored. Grandpa decides he's done for the evening and prepares to retire to his quarters. He instructs Zayden to keep the remaining guests entertained for the rest of the night. The scene moves away from the party to the quiet hallways of the mansion. Nicolette follows along, still processing the life-changing announcement. Grandpa gently tells her she should head to a guest room to get some rest. Benjamin offers to support her and walk her to the room himself. Grandpa stops him, insisting that Benjamin accompanies him for a private discussion instead. A maid steps in to assist Nicolette while Benjamin watches them go. Benjamin maintains a calm demeanor as he watches his wife head to safety. He eventually makes his way toward a room labeled as the study. He steps inside the quiet room to wait or handle his business. Benjamin closes the door behind him to ensure total privacy. Once alone, he loosens his tie to relax after the long evening. He notices someone else is already present in the room. A woman stands there holding a bowl, having waited for his arrival. She approaches him, addressing him with a familiar title. She claims to have heard he had a headache and brought him some tea. She holds out the bowl, offering the beverage to him. Benjamin remains cold and immediately asks her to leave the room. The woman is visibly frustrated by his blunt rejection. She sets the bowl down, noting that the tea has already gone cold. Despite the dismissal, she remains confident in her ability to eventually win him over. She glares with a hidden agenda, clearly plotting against Nicolette's happiness. While she tries to act charming, Benjamin remains completely unfazed by her presence. He watches her with a look of pure indifference and boredom. He points out that she should find warmer clothes given the cold weather. Benjamin turns his back on her, effectively ending the conversation. She fumes with anger as her attempt to get close to him fails. She eventually storms off, determined to succeed another time. Later, Benjamin arrives at the guest room and turns the handle. He finds Nicolette resting peacefully after the hectic party. He enters the dimly lit room and approaches the bed. Benjamin looks down at her with a much softer expression than before. He sits on the edge of the bed as Nicolette wakes up to greet him. He gives her a warm smile and tells her to go back to sleep. He reaches over to the bedside table to turn off the lamp. Nicolette watches him affectionately as the room goes dark. Benjamin lies down beside her and they share a quiet, peaceful moment. She asks if Grandpa was hard on him during their private talk. Benjamin holds her hand, reassuring her that everything is fine. He pulls her close, letting her know he will always do right by her. Nicolette sits up, firmly stating that she doesn't want the family's wealth or shares. Benjamin gently touches her face, telling her that he understands her feelings. He promises her that they will leave the mansion and head home tomorrow. He gives her a playful tap to lighten the serious mood. Nicolette reacts with a blush, feeling a bit flustered by his playfulness. Benjamin heads toward the bathroom, teasing her one last time. The sound of the door closing signals he's starting his evening routine. Nicolette waits in the room, her thoughts still lingering on the day's events. She yawns, struggling to stay awake until he returns. Nicolette is wide-eyed and blushing when she sees Benjamin again. He gives her a charming smile, enjoying her reaction. Benjamin leans in and gently lifts her chin to look at her. He moves closer, focusing all his attention on her. The couple shares a sweet and tender kiss in the quiet of the room. Benjamin and Nikki stroll along a scenic pier, enjoying the ocean breeze as they arrive back in Blashier. Nikki admires the fresh seafood market, feeling a sense of relief to be home after the family drama. Benjamin playfully pinches Nikki's cheek as they discuss their dinner plans for the evening. The couple shares a lighthearted moment, depicted in a charming chibi style as they celebrate their return. Suddenly, a woman's voice calls out Nicolette's name, causing the pair to stop in their tracks. Abigail approaches them, looking confident and stylish in her summer attire. Abigail immediately focuses all her attention on Benjamin, looking at him with clear admiration. She clears her throat to make her presence known, prompting an awkward reaction from the couple. Abigail asks why they returned from the birthday party so soon, barely acknowledging Nikki. She continues to press Benjamin for details, ignoring Nikki's annoyed expression, as she tries to monopolize the conversation. Nikki feels increasingly frustrated as Abigail makes the entire interaction about Benjamin. Asserting her place, Nikki firmly grabs Benjamin's arm to signal that he is taken. Benjamin looks down in surprise at Nikki's sudden and protective display of affection. Nikki clings to his arm with a determined pout, making her feelings about the interruption very clear. Noticing the tension, Benjamin suggests they finish their grocery shopping so they can head home. Nikki gives Abigail a polite but firm parting smile, signaling the end of the conversation. The couple walks away together, leaving Abigail standing alone by the market stalls. Abigail watches them leave with a look of pure frustration, clearly unhappy about Benjamin's choice. Later, Benjamin reassures a still fuming Nikki as they walk back toward their home. The scene shifts to their quiet apartment building, where the couple can finally relax. A spread of delicious, spicy dishes prepared by Benjamin fills the dining table. Nikki digs in with enthusiasm, praising Benjamin for his impressive cooking skills. Benjamin watches her eat with a satisfied smile, happy to see her enjoying the meal. When Benjamin tells Nikki she can't have any more spicy fish this month for her health, she reacts with shock. He promises to prepare milder, equally tasty fish dishes to keep her stomach settled. After the meal, Benjamin diligently takes care of the washing up in the kitchen sink. Nikki relaxes on the sofa, playfully complaining about eating too much of his great food. Benjamin turns to her with a smile, promising to love her no matter what. Nikki peers over the counter, watching her husband work with a look of deep appreciation. She gazes at him affectionately, clearly moved by his constant care and devotion. A flashback to the previous day shows the grand entrance of the mansion, where the family meeting took place. Nikki stands before her grandpa, with Benjamin right behind her for support. She explains that her home is in Blashier, and she doesn't want to move just to manage the stocks. Grandpa laughs heartily, clearly impressed by Nikki's independence and her loyalty to her husband. He insists she sign the contract anyway, explaining she can receive dividends without needing to run the business. Nikki looks relieved and happy with the compromise her grandpa has provided. Back in the present, a thoughtful expression crosses Nikki's face as she watches Benjamin. Benjamin looks up from the dishes, responding to her call with a gentle look. He pauses his cleaning as Nikki suggests the idea of officially buying their apartment from the landlord. Ben looks surprised as he processes the idea of buying their current home. He continues cleaning a dish as he thinks over the proposal. Nicolette explains that she isn't trying to pressure him, but simply wants to use her inheritance for their future. Ben finishes the task and shuts off the water to give her his full attention. He gently tilts her head up to look at him while they discuss the next steps for their family. Ben holds her hands and mentions the possibility of expanding their family now that they have the means. The husband teases his flustered wife about the perfect timing for them to become parents. He reaches out to further comfort her during their heart-to-heart. The couple shares a quiet, supportive moment as they agree to look into buying the property. The next day, the scene shifts to the sleek exterior of the corporate office building. Nicolette arrives at work, unaware that she is being watched from the shadows. She stops in her tracks when she notices a familiar face in the lobby. Abigail treats her with cold indifference, refusing to even acknowledge her presence. The rival turns away sharply, maintaining her frosty demeanor. Nicolette wonders why the woman is acting so strange today as she watches her walk off. She heads toward the design department to start her workday. Her coworkers are huddled together, whispering and casting suspicious glances her way. The atmosphere is thick with gossip as everyone stares at her the moment she enters the room. Nicolette feels the weight of the unwanted attention and tries to focus on her desk. Lily approaches her with a friendly greeting, breaking the awkward tension. Seeking to share her good fortune, Nicolette places a small gift on the desk. She presents the keepsake to Lily as a token of their friendship. Lily opens the box to find a pair of elegant, leaf-shaped charms. A brief memory shows Nicolette being encouraged to embrace her new status and generosity. Lily is absolutely stunned by the high quality of the gift she just received. Nicolette smiles, happy to see her friend's genuine reaction. Lily leans in close, asking if the wild rumors circulating the office are actually true. The protagonist is caught off guard by the sudden interrogation about her private life. Lily excitedly confirms the news that Nicolette is actually a high-profile heiress. Abigail stands nearby, listening to the revelation with a look of pure disdain. The rival mocks the idea of Nicolette being a billionaire, claiming she was a secret child. Lily immediately calls out Abigail for being jealous of Nicolette's family connections. Abigail doubles down on her insults, suggesting the Lebov family actually wants nothing to do with her. Enraged by the disrespect, Lily steps forward to confront the antagonist. Nicolette remains calm, stating she moved back to Blashier simply to be with her husband. Abigail is visibly frustrated by the failed attempt to rattle her rival. A malicious expression crosses her face as she plots her next move. She walks away with a parting threat, leaving the two friends behind. Lily then informs Nicolette that the general manager has requested an immediate meeting. Nicolette makes her way down the hall toward the manager's private office. She hesitates at the door, sensing that something is wrong. Looking inside, she discovers Abigail in the middle of a very close conversation with the manager. The scene scene shifts to the general manager's office, where internal company politics are coming to a head. Inside, Abigail aggressively questions Mr. Salvatore about why Nicolette was chosen over her for a major menswear project. The manager tries to pacify her, explaining that the client specifically requested Nicolette for the demanding role. A sharp sound echoes through the room as the heated discussion reaches its breaking point. Enraged by the lack of support, Abigail declares their professional relationship over and storms out of the room. She reaches for the door handle with a firm, angry grip. The door swings open as she makes her dramatic exit. Abigail brushes past Nicolette in the hallway, her face twisted with frustration. A loud slam follows as Abigail vents her anger on the office door. Nicolette watches her rival stomp away, stunned by the sudden display of raw emotion. Composing herself, Nicolette knocks on the manager's door to begin her meeting. Mr. Salvatore welcomes her back with an unusually enthusiastic greeting. He continues his friendly facade by praising Nicolette's grandfather as a role model. Nicolette realizes his sudden change in attitude is entirely due to her family's prestige. She keeps the conversation professional, asking for the details regarding the new project. The manager presents a gold business card for the creative director at Blue Sky. Nicolette accepts the card, ready to take on the next stage of her career. With her instructions clear, she prepares to head out to the client's headquarters. The manager watches her leave, clearly relieved to have stayed on her good side. Nicolette arrives at the towering Blue Sky skyscraper, feeling dwarfed by its scale. She takes a moment to admire the high-end aesthetic of the corporation's headquarters. Looking for a bit of support, she pulls out her phone to call Benjamin. She hesitates for a moment, second-guessing her need for motivation. Realizing she needs to prove herself independently, she decides to handle the meeting alone. A look of fierce determination crosses her face as she focuses on the task ahead. Nicolette strides confidently toward the entrance, ready to make a name for herself. Inside the lobby, she finds an atmosphere of polished professionalism and luxury. She approaches the front desk to check in for her scheduled meeting with the director. The receptionist greets her warmly and prepares to lead her to the meeting area. Nicolette follows close behind, taking her first steps into the heart of the company. A group of executives passes by, momentarily catching her attention. Something about the group makes Nicolette pause and look back in confusion. Several staff members walk through the hall, focused on their corporate duties. Her eyes widen in total disbelief as she recognizes a familiar face among the suits. Benjamin stands there, looking every bit the high-level professional in his glasses and suit. Stunned by the unexpected encounter, Nicolette demands to know exactly what he is doing there. Nicolette is stunned to find Benjamin at the office and asks what he is doing there. He calmly explains that he is only there for work while placing a hand on her head. Nikki finds the coincidence wonderful, while a man in a tan suit watches the couple from a distance. The man clears his throat, prompting the two to quickly pull away from their close proximity. When Nikki asks if this is a colleague, the stranger addresses Ben as Mr. Hamilton. The long-haired man smirks and asks Ben about the young lady's identity. Nikki confidently declares that she is Benjamin's wife. Ben looks on with a silent, composed expression after her bold introduction. Realizing she blurted that out in a professional setting, Nikki becomes overwhelmed with embarrassment. She quickly pivots, explaining she is actually a designer from Lion Cloud here for a scheduled meeting. The man introduces himself as Chase Hamilton, the creative director at Blue Sky. Nikki is impressed by his title and reaches out to shake his hand. Ben watches the handshake with a sharp, focused gaze that suggests he is not pleased. A dark panther appears behind Ben as a visual metaphor for his sudden spike in jealousy. An assistant interrupts the tense moment to announce that the meeting room is ready for them. Chase leads the group through the expansive, modern hallway of the headquarters. After finishing his tasks, Ben confirms he has fixed the necessary software errors. The couple holds hands as they prepare to transition to the next part of their day. Nikki invites Ben to accompany her to the meeting, so he doesn't have to wait around alone. She happily suggests they find a place to grab lunch together once her work is finished. Ben agrees to the plan with a gentle and supportive smile. 2 hours later, the elevator chime signals the end of their professional appointments. Nikki exits the lift feeling triumphant, noting that the creative director was very pleased with her designs. She beams with joy, clearly riding the high of a successful project presentation. Nikki suddenly rushes to the glass wall, calling Ben over to see the spectacular view. The office offers a panoramic look at the city and the winding Emerald River below. Nikki gazes out at the water, expressing how much she admires the beautiful scenery. Ben stands behind her and casually suggests they should just buy a house in this area. Nikki is startled by the idea, worrying about the apartment they are currently renting. Ben dismisses her concerns with a playful pat on the head. He tells her she is wealthy enough to own multiple homes with a simple credit card swipe. Nikki jokes that such a lifestyle would officially make him a kept man as they enjoy the skyline together. The elevator reaches the lobby floor, signaling their departure from the building. High above, Chase watches them leave from a window while holding a cup of tea. The couple continues to chat and laugh as they walk away from the office hand in hand. A flashback reveals Chase sitting with the pair, learning they originally met on a blind date. An abstract image represents their fateful meeting as two figures walking toward a bright horizon. Chase sips his tea and reflects on how mysterious the workings of fate can be. He finds the connection between Benjamin and the prestigious Lebov family to be extremely interesting. The couple arrives at the massive King Square shopping complex for their outing. Nikki's eyes sparkle with realization as she looks at the storefronts. Ben stops Nikki from leaving, insisting they browse the high-end boutique section first. A finger points toward the sign for Mira, a notoriously expensive luxury brand. Nikki panics over the staggering price tags, but Ben remains completely unfazed. Ben pulls her close, reassuring her that she only deserves the highest quality items. He whispers more encouragement to convince her to accept the gift. Realizing she can easily afford the luxury, Nikki enthusiastically agrees to the shopping spree. Nikki steps into the boutique, her fashionable white heels clicking against the floor. The staff warmly welcomes the couple as they enter the exclusive Mira store. The two walk further into the shop, ready to begin their selection. While the sales staff focuses their attention on Ben, Nikki feels overwhelmed by the vast array of keepsakes. Nikki admits that the sheer volume of charms is making her feel stressed. Ben gently strokes her hair and tells her to wait in the dressing area while he makes the selections. Nikki catches Ben's arm, questioning if he even knows her specific measurements. Ben looks at her with total confidence, claiming to be very familiar with her requirements. Flustered by his boldness, Nikki tries to quiet him down before he says anything else. Nikki takes a seat in the lounge area and flips through a fashion magazine to pass the time. She looks up suddenly as Ben returns from his task. Ben looms over her, curious about the content of the magazine she is reading. Nikki smiles brightly at him, impressed that he finished the task so quickly. Ben maintains a calm and superior expression, pleased with his choices for his wife. Other customers in the lounge watch them with envy, praising Ben's attentive behavior. Ben stands near the fitting rooms as a shop assistant approaches with the selected items. Ben reaches out and takes the keepsakes himself, preventing the assistant from helping. His expression shifts to a cold, serious look as he addresses the staff member. He pulls the charms away, stating he doesn't want anyone else looking at his wife, even the female staff. A sharp glint appears in Ben's eye as he asserts his possessive stance. Inside the booth, Nikki is relieved and blushing to find that everything fits her perfectly. Ben stands at the checkout counter and hands over a black credit card to pay for the haul. The couple exits the store with several bags, and Nikki is shocked that he bought every single item. Ben simply nods, claiming he used her money to cover the high costs. He takes her hand and leads her toward the next shop to find a suit for himself. Nikki looks at him suspiciously, realizing the card he used looked much different than her own. Nikki spots a stylish blue trench coat in the boutique window and suggests they take a closer look. Ben examines the storefront through his glasses as they prepare to enter the high-end shop. A shop assistant greets them and immediately points out a 10% discount on current seasonal items. Nikki browses the clearance rack but quickly realizes the quality is far below what she expected. She worries that dressing Ben in cheap clothes would be an insult to his character, while Ben remains perfectly composed. After feeling the fabric, Nikki confirms that the sales items don't compare to the premium piece on the mannequin. Nikki asks the assistant to bring out the blue trench coat from the display so her husband can try it on. The employee internally questions if the couple can actually afford such a high-ticket item. Despite her doubts, the assistant leads them to the most expensive piece in the store and allows Ben to test the fit. The mechanical showcase wears open to reveal the exclusive garment. Ben steps out looking incredibly sharp in the well-tailored blue coat. He adjusts his glasses, looking every bit the part of a high-status individual in the premium outerwear. Nikki is thrilled with the look, noting that the coat fits Ben perfectly. She immediately tells the assistant to ring it up, but the employee looks hesitant. The assistant nervously explains that the coat is actually a custom VIP order and isn't available for general sale. A wealthy woman suddenly interrupts, mocking the couple for having no self-awareness regarding their budget. Miss Archibald stands tall with her umbrella, looking down on Nikki and Ben with pure disdain. She continues her verbal assault, questioning why they are even bothering with items they can't afford. Nikki is visibly taken aback by the woman's blatant rudeness in the middle of the store. Ben stares back with a cold, unbothered expression as the situation escalates. Miss Archibald ignores the staff's attempts to de-escalate, claiming she paid a top tailor specifically for that coat. She steps forward in her designer heels to confront them directly. With a sharp click, she snaps her umbrella shut to emphasize her point. The two women face off as Miss Archibald repeats her claim that the couple is out of their league. Nikki recognizes her as the daughter of Ben's boss, who frequently bothers him at his workplace. Trying to be reasonable, Nikki apologizes for the misunderstanding and prepares to leave the coat behind. Miss Archibald isn't satisfied and continues to glare at Nikki with intense hostility. Ben decides he's had enough, grabbing Nikki's hand to lead her out of the shop. Nikki looks surprised by Ben's sudden move to exit the confrontation without another word. Miss Archibald screams for them to stop, refusing to let them walk away so easily. She demands compensation, arguing that the coat is now used because Ben tried it on. Nikki turns back, looking frustrated by the woman's increasingly unreasonable demands. Nikki asks her directly what she expects them to do to resolve the matter. Miss Archibald mocks their financial status again, demanding they pay for the custom piece in full. Ben remains silent, his expression turning icy as he listens to her demands. He calmly asks the shocked assistant to name the price of the coat. The assistant is caught off guard as another staff member rushes over to assist with the high-profile client. The manager bows to Miss Archibald, promising to handle all of her demands immediately. Miss Archibald berates the staff for even putting her custom order on display in the first place. To settle the dispute, the manager offers a massive 50% discount on the coat. Miss Archibald rejects the offer, while Ben tells her to calm down and repeats that he will provide compensation. The woman is fuming, her anger flaring up at Ben's dismissive tone. The staff pleads with Ben to stop talking so they can appease the wealthy Miss Archibald. A man with long dark hair and a tan suit walks into the boutique, drawing everyone's attention. Miss Archibald's demeanor shifts instantly as she recognizes the newcomer as Chase Hamilton. Chase Hamilton enters the frame, looking every bit the professional creative director. Chase Hamilton arrives at the boutique, and Miss Archibald immediately rushes over to greet him while the couple watches from a distance. Nikki worries about the escalating tension, while the store manager fears for her job seeing that the two might be friends. Ben holds Nikki close, providing a silent sense of security during the confrontation. He looks down at her with a calm and steady expression, signaling that he has the situation under control. Chase maintains a polite but clearly forced smile as Miss Archibald clings to his arm and complains. Nikki imagines herself as a high roller, ready to settle any debt with a massive stack of cash to end the dispute. Ben pats Nikki on the head, seemingly amused by her sudden burst of financial confidence. Miss Archibald points Nikki out to Chase, hoping he will take her side against the intruder. Nikki is caught off guard when she realizes Chase is looking directly at her with recognition. Sensing the shift in the atmosphere, Nikki tells Ben to be careful as things get serious. Chase begins walking toward the couple, leaving the frustrated Miss Archibald behind. Ben keeps a protective hand on Nikki's head, noting that Chase appears to be a level-headed individual. Ben watches Chase's approach with a sharp, analytical gaze, ready for any outcome. Chase's eyes light up with interest as he finally reaches the pair. He offers a friendly greeting and a handshake, acknowledging Nikki as an old acquaintance to everyone's surprise. Miss Archibald is visibly stunned, demanding to know how Chase could possibly know someone like Nikki. Chase casually mentions that Nikki is a talented professional destined for a director role. Despite the intervention, Miss Archibald continues to whine about her custom order being ruined by being handled. Chase turns his cold attention toward the store staff, demanding to know who was in charge of this mess. The manager and assistant tremble as they try to explain their failed attempt at handling the VIP dispute. Chase's expression hardens as he questions why they failed to show Nikki proper respect. The staff members realize they are in deep trouble for offending a close associate of the creative director. Fed up with the incompetence, Chase fires the employees on the spot and orders them to leave immediately. Miss Archibald loses her temper and screams at Nikki, demanding a public apology. Nikki stands her ground, reminding the group that they already offered to pay for the disputed coat. Refusing to deal with any more drama, Nikki takes Ben's hand and prepares to exit the store. Miss Archibald shouts threats, daring Nikki to take another step toward the door. Nikki looks back with a defiant expression, asking if she is being held there illegally. Chase steps in to support her, declaring that no one has the authority to stop her from walking out. He offers a confident smile, firmly siding with Nikki over his supposed friend. Ben maintains a serious look, confirming that he won't let anyone stand in their way. Archibald is absolutely livid, demanding to know why Chase is taking the side of Nikki and Ben. Chase remains completely unfazed, offering a smug smile in response to the blonde woman's tantrum. A chibi visualization shows Chase firmly aligned with the couple, leaving Archibald isolated and shocked. The blonde woman trembles with suppressed rage as her influence over the situation evaporates. In a sudden burst of anger, Archibald swings her hand out to strike. Ben moves with lightning speed, catching her wrist before she can land a blow on Nikki. Archibald immediately plays the victim, clutching her wrist and claiming she's been assaulted. Ben looks down at her with cold indifference, stating that he generally avoids physical altercations. He delivers a chilling warning that he's willing to make an exception if anyone tries to harm his wife. His sharp gaze through his glasses leaves the antagonist completely silenced and intimidated. Nikki watches him, clearly moved by how fiercely Ben stands up for her. She reflects on her difficult family life, realizing that Ben is the only person who has ever truly had her back. The scene shifts to the exterior of a luxury apartment complex as night falls over the city. While relaxing at home, Nikki finds an article about Chase Hamilton, noting his reputation as a high-profile bachelor. A wild idea suddenly crosses Nikki's mind, causing her eyes to sparkle with curiosity. She hilariously imagines a bromance between Ben and Chase, which sends her into a state of total shock. Nikki gets overly dramatic, crying out that she needs to protect her husband from her own imagination. She suddenly remembers the real-world consequences of the boutique incident and snaps back to reality. In her hurry to talk to Ben, Nikki sprints through the apartment without putting on any shoes. She finds Ben in the kitchen and asks if he's worried about Archibald's father retaliating against him. Ben turns to face her, immediately noticing her lack of preparation for the cool indoor temperature. torture. He promptly lifts her up, scolding her for walking around barefoot during the autumn season. Ben carries her through the living room, insisting that he doesn't want her catching a cold. Nikki wraps her arms around his neck, focusing on whether he'll lose his job over today's drama. Ben gives her a reassuring look, telling her not to dwell on such negative possibilities. He leans his head against hers, offering a moment of quiet comfort and stability. He carries her toward the bedroom, suggesting that being fired might actually be a good way to escape the drama. Ben assists Nikki into a resting position, encouraging her to relax instead of overanalyzing every detail. He stays close to her, playfully mentioning that her constant worrying is ruining the calm atmosphere. The night concludes with a symbolic shot of their matching slippers and a celebratory display of fireworks. Bright morning light fills the room the next day, signaling a fresh start after the chaos. Ben opens the bedroom door to check on Nikki, who is finally starting to wake up. Nikki is surprised to see her husband still in the house, well past his usual start time. Wearing a casual apron, Ben smiles and lets her know that breakfast's already on the table. Nikki points to the clock in disbelief, noting it's 10 in the morning and he hasn't left for work. Ben calmly explains that her earlier fears were correct. He has officially been fired. A chibi version of the couple shows, Ben nonchalantly breaking the news to a completely stunned Nikki. Nikki pouts on the couch, feeling guilty and apologizing for the trouble she caused. Ben remains perfectly calm, casually sweeping the floor as if nothing is wrong. Nikki can't believe how relaxed he is and asks if he's even worried about losing his job. Ben just gives her a small smile, appearing completely unfazed by the situation. As he continues to clean the living room, he asks Nikki why she has so little faith in him. He wears a confident smirk, suggesting that there's more to his termination than meets the eye. Leaning on his broom, he predicts that the company will eventually come crawling back to him. He leans in close to reassure Nikki that she'll understand the full situation very soon. The clock on the wall ticks away as the evening progresses. Suddenly, a phone left on the table begins to vibrate incessantly with a new notification. Ben tells Nikki to just ignore it so they can focus on their movie night. They sit back and watch the screen, trying to enjoy their time together despite the interruption. However, the phone continues to buzz at various intervals throughout the night. Eventually, Nikki reaches out to check who is being so persistent. She grabs the device, questioning if Ben is trying to hide something from her. The screen displays an incoming call from someone named Dominic. Nikki realizes this is likely his supervisor and urges him to see what they want. Ben remains cool and collected, telling her that the boss is simply pushing his luck. Nikki hands the phone over, wondering if this is a tactic to get a higher salary. Ben looks down at the device with a focused and serious expression. He finally answers the call while Nikki watches him closely, anxious to hear the news. He listens to the assistant's plea for a meeting and keeps his face unreadable. Without a second thought, Ben hangs up the call, leaving Nikki in a state of total shock. He gives her a gentle pat on the head and tells her that everything is going to be fine. Almost immediately, the phone rings again with another call from Dominic. Ben takes the call and listens as his former colleague explains that investors are pulling out because of his firing. Ben suggests to Dominic that they should just move on and start their own business together. Nikki watches him, realizing that her husband might be ready for a much bigger challenge. While he talks, she starts to worry that his old boss might try to retaliate against them. She imagines herself as a martial arts master, ready to defend Ben from any outside threats. She strikes a determined pose, showing off her fighting spirit. Ben looks at her with a mix of confusion and amusement, wondering what's going through her head. A few days later, Nikki is back at work handling some paperwork by the office copier. She looks up when she hears a colleague calling out her name in a panic. Her coworker rushes over, insisting that she needs to see something on the computer right away. They head toward the desk where a vase of flowers sits nearby. Nikki leans over the monitor, her eyes widening as she sees a shocking update on the screen. A computer monitor displays detailed sketches for a new menswear collection. The screen specifically highlights Stell Clothing Manufacturing, the company using the stolen designs. Nicolette stares at the screen in disbelief, realizing her original sketches for Blue Sky have been plagiarized by a competitor. Her coworker Lily leans in, asking if Nicolette ever leaves her workstation unsecured at the office. Nicolette looks distressed as she confirms she always follows proper security protocols. Lily continues to press for details, wondering if someone could have bypassed a login password. Nicolette clutches her head in frustration, desperately trying to remember any suspicious activity. Back at home, Benjamin is busy in the kitchen, preparing a meal for his wife. Nicolette arrives home and quickly swaps her heels for a pair of comfortable, bear-themed slippers. Benjamin brings a hot bowl to the table, noticing Nicolette's unusually somber mood. Nicolette tries to maintain a brave face as she sets her bag down for dinner. The couple sits together in their dining room, though the atmosphere remains tense. Nicolette takes a bite of the food, momentarily distracted by how good it tastes. The weight of the day finally hits her, and tears begin to well up in her eyes. Benjamin stops eating and looks at her with deep concern, asking if she feels unwell. Nicolette remains silent for a moment, her face flushed with stress and exhaustion. Her hand trembles slightly on the table as she struggles to find the words. Benjamin listens intently, his expression hardening as he senses something is seriously wrong. Nicolette breaks down, explaining that her designs were stolen and the runway show is only days away. Benjamin pulls her into a supportive embrace, promising they will find a solution together. He holds her close, his mind already working on a plan to fix the situation. Benjamin claims to have a friend who is a fashion designer with unreleased sketches they can use. The quiet of their luxury apartment serves as a backdrop for Benjamin's quick thinking. He steps out onto the balcony later that night to make a private phone call. Benjamin orders the person on the other end to send the highest quality menswear designs to his email immediately. Later, he walks into the living room where Nicolette is waiting on the sofa. He slides his laptop across the table, showing her the professional-grade sketches he acquired. Nicolette is stunned by the incredible quality of the work, noting it's even better than her own. Overjoyed, she gives him a grateful hug, calling his friend a total lifesaver. As they sit together, Nicolette expresses a wish to meet this mysterious, talented designer. Benjamin laughs nervously, lying that the designer is currently working abroad. Later, Benjamin makes another call from the shadows, his tone shifting back to business. He demands a full internal investigation into the security breach at Lion Cloud. He knocks over a chess piece while giving orders to compile a list of any suspicious activity within the firm. The next morning, the sun shines over the modern architecture of the Lion Cloud headquarters. Inside the office, employees go about their daily routines as the atmosphere begins to shift. Lily is amazed that Nicolette managed to update the new designs so quickly. The two friends joke around, with Nicolette explaining she just had to make minor adjustments to the provided work. Lily nods enthusiastically, wishing they could recruit such a talented person to their team. A pink-haired woman watches them from a distance, looking confused that they are still happy despite the theft. She smirks to herself, intending to find out how Nicolette recovered so fast. Nearby coworkers whisper among themselves while casting suspicious glances at the woman. She tries to act casual, greeting the room with a wave and a smile. However, the office staff goes cold, actively avoiding her as she walks through the department. The woman realizes she is being shunned and wonders why everyone is suddenly treating her like an outcast. Nicolette is on-site managing the final preparations for the big runway show tomorrow. Chase Hamilton arrives at the venue, looking composed and professional for the upcoming event. Nicolette greets him warmly, relieved that the team is happy with the current progress. Chase observes the surroundings with a sharp, discerning look in his eyes. He stops to inspect one of the garments on a mannequin, analyzing the design. A brief moment of hesitation flashes across Chase's face as he continues his inspection. While Nicolette notices his odd expression, Chase realizes the strategy behind acquiring these specific designs. He quickly masks his thoughts with a laugh and praises Nicolette for her impressive work. Nicolette assures him that every detail is handled and the show will run perfectly. Chase smiles, promising to introduce her to a high-profile industry contact once the show ends. Nicolette is visibly thrilled by the prospect of such a major professional opportunity. She briefly daydreams about the upcoming meeting and what it could mean for her career. As he prepares to leave, Chase pauses and turns back to ask one final question. He asks if Benjamin is available the next day, wearing a playful and knowing grin. Nicolette is caught off guard by the personal inquiry and struggles to find an immediate answer. Chase finds her flustered reaction quite amusing and lets out a small chuckle. He encourages her to invite her husband, so they can celebrate her success together. Nicolette watches him leave, surprised by his unexpectedly down-to-earth suggestion. She feels a sense of relief and happiness as the stress of the event begins to fade. Excited by the news, she decides it's time to give Benjamin a quick update. Benjamin's phone lights up in his car as his wife gives him a call. He answers using his headset, a satisfied smile appearing as he listens to her voice. Nicolette shares the good news about the client's approval and the invitation for him to attend. She notes that her colleagues are acting strangely, as if they are hiding something from her. Benjamin explains that the news of the workplace investigation has likely leaked out. He keeps his focus on the road as he continues their conversation while driving. He tells her they will catch up on all the details once they are both back home. The scene shifts to the quiet, star-filled night sky over the city. Nicolette returns to their residence, calling out for Benjamin as she steps inside. Benjamin is already there, wearing an apron and ready to serve her a refreshing drink. As she drinks the juice, Nicolette asks how his transition to his new firm is going. Benjamin remains confident, showing no signs of stress regarding his former employer's threats. He offers a reassuring pat on the head, telling her that their rivals are no longer a concern. He places a steady hand on her shoulder, promising that a better life is just ahead. Benjamin pulls her into a supportive embrace, reaffirming his commitment to their future. Nicolette feels incredibly lucky to have such a supportive partner by her side. She suddenly remembers something important and pulls back with a surprised look. Benjamin opens a door to reveal a hidden surprise he has been preparing. Nicolette looks on with curiosity, wondering what he could be hiding behind the door. He holds out a beautifully decorated gift box and tells her to open it up. Her eyes sparkle with pure joy as she realizes the surprise is meant for her. Benjamin watches her with a warm smile, clearly enjoying her excited reaction. Nicolette is filled with anticipation, wondering what special occasion he is celebrating. She carefully pulls the ribbon to open the keepsake and see what's inside. Inside is a legal title for a new house, and she looks at Benjamin in total disbelief. He confirms that the home is officially theirs and that she is the title holder. In a playful moment, she wonders if he spent all his capital on this massive purchase. Benjamin admits he used a lot of it, but reassures her that the business is still stable. Nicolette hugs him tightly, overjoyed that they finally have a place to call their own. Staff members rush around frantically as they prepare for the big runway event. Claire accidentally bumps into Nikki while carrying a stack of boxes. Nikki asks why she is in such a hurry, noting her colleague's panicked expression. Claire delivers the devastating news that one of the crucial outfits for the show has gone missing. The garment rack shows a glaring gap where the main look should be hanging. Nikki frantically searches through the remaining clothes to see which specific piece is gone. They finally locate the missing garment tucked away in a corner. Relief quickly turns to horror as the two women stare at the recovered item. The fabric has been intentionally shredded and ruined, making it completely unwearable. Nikki realizes this was not an accident, but a deliberate act of sabotage. Claire reaches for her phone to call the authorities immediately. Nikki stops her, knowing they do not have enough time before the show starts to involve the police. They discuss how the staff already informed Mr. Hamilton about the disaster as soon as they saw the damage. Nikki looks on with determination, deciding to take matters into her own hands to save the production. The backstage area remains a chaotic scene of preparation and high-stakes stress. Nikki wonders if the culprit is a competitor or someone within their own circle. Her eyes narrow with focus as she tries to solve the immediate problem of the ruined centerpiece. Despite the setback, the rest of the crew continues bustling about to meet the looming deadline. Claire sends a photo of a backup outfit, but warns that it will not fit any of their current models. Nikki tells her to bring it anyway, planning to find a solution on the fly. Nikki stands alone, desperately trying to think of someone who can meet the specific requirements for the replacement look. Suddenly, Ben appears backstage to check on her progress. Nikki looks up in shock at his unexpected arrival. Ben asks if something is wrong, looking as composed and professional as ever. Nikki realizes that the perfect model for the suit has just walked through the door. She immediately grabs Ben and drags him toward the dressing area. Nikki instructs the lead stylist to get Ben ready for the runway immediately. Claire returns to the area and is stunned to see that a model has already been found. Ben sits patiently as the makeup artist begins working on his face. Claire watches in awe, realizing how perfectly he fits the aesthetic of the collection. Nikki pleads with Ben to step in and save the show for her as the final model. The stage manager checks in to see if the team can still make their scheduled time slot. Nikki confidently confirms they are ready and prepares the final touches on the garment. She gives Ben some last-minute instructions on how to handle the walk. An hour later, the lights dim and the professional runway show officially begins. Chase Hamilton sits in the front row, watching the first models emerge onto the stage. He remembers Nikki's promise to protect the reputation of the show at all costs. He looks on with a smirk, curious to see how she handled the crisis behind the scenes. The audience erupts in applause as the show progresses smoothly without any visible hitches. Backstage, Nikki watches from the wings and prays for everything to go perfectly. Ben steps out into the spotlight, immediately capturing everyone's attention with his presence. He walks the runway with natural confidence, looking like a seasoned professional. The staff members are completely captivated by his appearance on stage. Chase Hamilton's eyes widen as he recognizes the man wearing the final look. He finds the situation highly amusing and settles in to watch the rest of the walk. Ben strikes a pose at the end of the runway, looking effortless in the designer suit. He turns and heads back, leaving the audience in a state of high excitement. Nikki peeks out from behind the curtain, feeling immense pride in her husband's performance. The entire venue is filled with cheers as the announcer prepares to introduce the creative director. Nikki praises Ben for his incredible performance on the runway. Ben smiles, feeling proud that he could support his wife without causing any embarrassment. Chase Hamilton approaches the couple, announcing that he has some exciting news to share. Nikki asks if a suspect has been found, but Chase explains that while the investigation is ongoing, he has kept the matter quiet for now. Chase extends an invitation to an after-party held at the prestigious Majestic Palace. He surprises Nikki by promising to introduce her to the legendary Max Cadoret that very evening. The scene shifts to the grand and brightly lit Majestic Palace venue. Guests gather at the high-end outdoor celebration, filling the air with conversation. Nikki takes a moment to sit and relax amidst the bustling crowd. A colleague approaches Nikki to ask if she wants food, but Nikki notes that Ben is already taking care of it. Nikki watches from a distance as Ben mingles with the other attendees. Ben stands elegantly near the cherry blossoms, holding a beverage while enjoying the atmosphere. Nikki's friend Lily remarks on how lucky she is to have such a supportive partner. Lily takes a drink while lamenting her own personal unhappiness. Nikki looks on with concern, knowing that Lily is currently going through a difficult divorce. Lily suddenly spots someone in the crowd and reacts with total shock. She excitedly points toward a guest and begins shaking Nikki in disbelief. Nikki's eyes widen as she follows Lily's gaze across the room. Ben is seen casually chatting and laughing with the world-renowned fashion designer, Max Cadoret. Both women stare in awe at the sight of Ben interacting with such an industry icon. Nikki wonders how Ben could possibly know someone of Max Cadoret's stature, since he doesn't work in fashion. Max and Ben continue their friendly discussion as the two women watch from afar. Max Cadoret stands tall and distinguished, holding up his glass in a celebratory gesture. Lily insists that Max just toasted to them and urges Nikki to go over and say hello. Nikki hesitates, worried that it might be a bad idea to interrupt their conversation. After a moment of thought, Nikki sets her beverage down and prepares to approach her role model. Nikki and Lily walk toward the two men to formally introduce themselves. Max Cadoret acknowledges Nikki, mentioning that Ben has been telling him all about the success of Lion Cloud. Nikki modestly thanks him, admitting that she still feels there is a lot to learn. Impressed by her attitude, Max offers his contact information and tells her to reach out for advice anytime. Chase Hamilton arrives on the scene, surprised to see that Nikki has already found her way to the guest of honor. Chase tells Max how impressed he was by Nikki's ability to stay calm during the backstage crisis earlier. Nikki's friends listen with pride as her quick thinking and hand-sewing skills are praised. Max commends Nikki for her professional response to the sabotage, calling her very impressive. Max looks toward the crowd as he is asked to take a more central role in the evening's events. Chase invites Max to deliver an opening speech for the after-party. Max laughs, realizing that Chase is using the opportunity to further boost the brand's impact. To Nikki's surprise, Max calls her up to the stage to join him. Ben gives her a supportive nod and tells her to go ahead. Standing before the crowd, Max gives Nikki full credit for the night's success and predicts a bright future for her. Reporters immediately swarm Nikki, asking if she is the same person from the prominent Rodbus Lebov's family. Nikki is taken aback as the press grills her on why she chose to settle in a smaller city like Blashier. In a brief flashback, Nikki asks Ben if he knew Max Cadoret personally before tonight. Ben explains they only had a short talk about her after the show, and Nikki thanks him for helping her connect with her hero. Reporters swarm the area, thrusting microphones forward and demanding to know why Nikki left her life in Rodbus behind for a smaller city. Nikki covers her ears, visibly shaken as the press brings up a painful engagement from her past. Tears begin to well up in her eyes as the aggressive questioning continues without mercy. A flashback reveals a grand wedding ceremony held at a towering church under a shower of rose petals. While the happy couple celebrates their union, a younger Nikki stands alone in the crowd, looking completely devastated. She hangs her head in shame while tabloid headlines about a messy love triangle fly around her. Overwhelmed by the public humiliation, Nikki breaks down and vows to leave Rodbus and never look back. Back in the present, Nikki is snapped back to reality by more invasive questions about her family's wealth. Security personnel finally intervene, pushing back the crowd to restore order to the event. Nikki looks up in a daze as a hand reaches out to pull her away from the flashing cameras. Ben pulls her into a protective embrace, offering a sense of security amidst the chaos. Nikki leans into him, exhausted and desperate to leave the scene behind. Without a word, Ben sweeps her off her feet and carries her through the crowd. The reporters watch in stunned silence as Ben makes a bold exit with Nikki in his arms. Even as they leave, the press continues to shout questions, but the security line holds them back. Ben casts a cold, intimidating glare over his shoulder that immediately silences the remaining reporters. The journalists stand petrified, completely overwhelmed by his intense aura. Ben carries Nikki out of the massive building and across the quiet plaza toward safety. Once they are away from the prying eyes of the media, Nikki asks to be put down so they can walk together. Her feet finally touch the ground as they find a moment of peace in the city night. Ben offers Nikki a handkerchief to dry her tears and asks if she wants to call a cab. Nikki declines, suggesting they simply take a walk together to clear her head. Ben gives a soft, supportive smile and agrees to accompany her. The two stroll down a moonlit path through a quiet, tree-filled park. A sudden breeze catches Nikki off guard, making her shiver in the night air. Ben immediately steps in and wraps his own scarf around her neck to keep her warm. Nikki worries that he'll be cold, but Ben insists she needs the protection more than he does. In a playful moment, Ben explains that he's still wearing a warm vest from the fashion show. Nikki realizes he's still in his runway attire and jokes the creative director might be upset. Ben dismisses the concern with a smirk, confident that no one would dare complain to him. Nikki looks at him with wide, impressed eyes, surprised by his casual confidence. Ben quickly lightens the mood, suggesting the designer probably has plenty of extra outfits anyway. Nikki looks down thoughtfully, wishing she had met someone as dependable as Ben much earlier in her life. Ben teases her gently, reminding her that their meeting happened at the exact right moment. Nikki's spirits lift as she points out the beautiful scenery surrounding them. Ben watches her with a soft, admiring expression, enjoying their romantic escape. As they walk through the falling autumn leaves, Ben realizes that their timing was actually perfect for their connection. Nikki spins around with a joyful smile, fully embracing the happiness she's found with him. Nikki and Ben walk hand in hand through a quiet park as she asks if he wants to hear the story of her past. Ben gives her a supportive look, telling her he only wants to listen if she is ready to share. Nikki takes a deep breath, looking somber as she prepares to reveal her family's history. In a flashback, her mother is shown as a talented woman who was constantly surrounded by admirers. She eventually fell for a man named Vince Lebov, Nikki's biological father, and the two shared a romance. However, Nikki's grandparents immediately disapproved of the relationship, suspecting Vince had ulterior motives. Blinded by her feelings, Nikki's mother ignored the warnings and stayed by his side. The couple eventually married just as Nikki's grandfather was preparing to move the family abroad for a new job. Having become pregnant, Nikki's mother informed her father that she would be staying behind to start her own life. Furious at her choice, her father declared he was cutting all ties with her. He tore up his travel documents in a fit of rage, leaving her to fend for herself. Nikki was later born in a massive mansion that Vince had provided for the small family. Her mother spent those early years caring for her daughter with a gentle smile. The peace didn't last, as her mother eventually discovered that Vince was seeing another woman. A heated argument broke out, resulting in a ceramic cup being shattered against the floor. Vince coldly demanded a divorce, revealing he planned to marry someone with influential business connections. Nikki's mother was left in tears, completely devastated by his betrayal. A young Nikki watched from the doorway as her father insulted her mother's modest background. Her mother eventually fell ill and spent her final days confined to a hospital bed. For 3 years, she held on to hope that Vince would visit her, but he never appeared. A single flower in a vase marks the passage of time as her condition worsened. Young Nikki was left alone, clutching her stuffed bunny and calling out for her mother. Following her mother's passing, the girl stood by the empty bed, her life forever changed. Custody was eventually handed over to the Libov family, leading to a cold reception. Nikki was brought to her father's estate, where he was already established with a new wife and another daughter. Vince introduced the woman as Nikki's new stepmother, showing no empathy for the child's grief. The young girl cried out in protest, refusing to accept the stranger as her mother. Angered by the outburst, Vince raised his hand to strike the child for her defiance. He delivered a harsh slap that sent Nikki reeling from the impact. Nikki collapsed onto the ground, sobbing as she held her stuffed animal close. Suddenly, a cane intercepted Vince's path, putting an end to the mistreatment. Her grandfather arrived just in time, reprimanding Vince for attacking a defenseless child. The elderly man reached out a hand, offering Nikki a place by his side. Back in the present, Nikki tells Ben that her paternal grandfather was the only family she truly had. She offers a sad smile, reflecting on the scandalous rumors surrounding her birth. Ben clenches his fist in silent frustration, clearly moved by the hardships she endured. Nikki tries to change the subject, admitting she's quite hungry after the long evening. Ben smiles and suggests they go look for something to eat at a nearby market. Nikki gives him a bright, genuine smile, happy to have someone she can lean on. Despite her cheerful exterior, the deep emotional scars from her childhood continue to weigh heavily on her heart. The next day, an exterior view of the office building reveals where the latest corporate drama is about to unfold. Inside, the employees are on edge as a heavy sense of tension fills the air. Nikki notices everyone acting strange as she makes her way through the workspace. Lily catches her attention, signaling that there is some urgent news to share. Leaning in close, Lily whispers that a mystery buyer has officially taken over the company Lion Cloud. Nikki is visibly stunned, knowing how massive a name Lion Cloud is within the industry. Lily takes a sip of her drink, while warning that a major shakeup and potential layoffs could be on the horizon. Nikki breathes a sigh of relief, hoping their recent successful fashion show will keep their team safe. Lily then shifts the focus, urging Nikki to finally confront Abigail for stealing her design sketch. Nikki considers the advice, deciding she needs to handle a few things before reporting the incident. As she walks through the office, Nikki spots the rival designer heading her way. Nikki's expression hardens as she prepares for an awkward encounter. The rival designer stops to mockingly ask if Nikki has finished her work for the recent show. Nikki remains composed, noting that the fashion show was a sensational success despite the setbacks. The rival designer smirks, pretending she was only acting out of concern before walking away. Nikki watches her go, noting that the woman just came out of the general manager's office. Suspicion grows as Nikki wonders what business the thief had behind closed doors. Determined to get answers, Nikki heads toward the general manager's office. The assistant Jenna stops her and tells her to come closer for some confidential advice. Jenna whispers that something has definitely changed between the manager and the rival designer over the last week. Nikki stands her ground, believing the manager wouldn't be bold enough to cover up workplace misconduct. She decides to proceed and gives the office door a firm knock. Inside, Mr. Drake is seen hurriedly putting on his suit jacket before telling her to enter. Nikki walks in, carrying the official report for the Blue Sky Menswear show. She hands over the stack of documents, keeping her focus strictly professional. Mr. Drake adjusts his glasses and praises her for doing a great job on the project. Nikki doesn't let the compliment distract her, stating there is one more serious matter to discuss. She reveals that she spotted their team's most anticipated design on a website a week before the show. Mr. Drake feigns surprise, questioning how such a leak could have happened. He quickly promises that he will personally get to the bottom of the theft. Nikki stares at him with a skeptical look, clearly doubting his sincerity. She presses the issue, arguing that weeks of her team's hard work were stolen and it isn't fair. Mr. Drake begins to lose his cool, his anger visibly rising as he defends his stance. He points a finger at Nikki, accusing her of playing a blame game without having any concrete proof. Nikki warns him that ignoring this will create bad blood between their company and the client. Losing his patience entirely, Mr. Drake slams his hand onto the desk to silence her. He shouts that the show was a success and they shouldn't risk the company's reputation by investigating further. Nikki remains defiant, threatening to take the entire matter directly to the client, Mr. Hamilton. Enraged by the threat, Mr. Drake yells at her to remember her place and not to make the problem any bigger. He huffs in frustration as Nikki makes it clear the choice to fix the situation is now in his hands. Leaving the office, Nikki realizes Ben was right about how the manager would react to the truth. She clenches her fist, feeling the weight of the injustice as she walks away. Behind her, Mr. Drake is left alone in his office, stewing in anger while smoking a cigarette. Mr. Drake dismisses the situation as a simple email mix-up, while Nikki stands firm in his office. He snuffs out his cigarette, showing he is finished with the discussion. Nikki remains defiant, pointing out that Abigail is clearly the one responsible for the theft. Drake tries to bribe her by offering a team bonus to keep her quiet about the incident. Nikki sees right through his attempt to silence her and the rest of the team. He orders her to get back to work and ends the conversation immediately. Disappointed, Nikki tells him his approach to solving the problem is unacceptable. She shocks him by declaring her intention to leave the company entirely. He angrily slams the door after she exits his office. Nikki stands in the hallway holding her files, looking frustrated by the lack of justice. Abigail watches from a distance, noticing Nikki's obvious distress. Abigail smirks, clearly pleased that her theft is being covered up by management. She confidently walks into Mr. Drake's office as Nikki walks away. Nikki realizes that Drake is willing to do anything to sweep the whole incident under the carpet. She reflects on the fact that Ben had already predicted this exact outcome. Meanwhile, Ben is working at his desk when he receives a notification on his phone. He stops writing to check the incoming message. A chibi version of Nikki expresses her frustration over losing their bet about the manager's reaction. Ben smiles to himself, knowing he had the upper hand the whole time. He sits back in his chair, confident in his knowledge of how the situation would unfold. However, something unexpected on his screen catches his attention, causing a brief moment of surprise. A flashback shows Ben and Nikki relaxing on the sofa the night before. Nikki suggests a bet on how Drake will handle the mess Abigail created. Chibi versions of them agree on the terms of the wager. Ben remains mysterious about what he wants Nikki to do if he wins the bet. Nikki happily agrees to the deal, unaware of what he has in mind. Back in the present, Ben checks his phone and notices the time. He looks focused as he realizes it is time to wrap up his work. The clock on his desk shows that it is exactly 4:30. He grabs his coat, preparing to leave the office immediately. Ben walks out with determination, ready to meet Nikki downstairs. Nikki looks startled, sensing that something in the atmosphere is slightly off. She stands alone in the office hallway, feeling a sudden sense of unease. She reaches into her pocket to pull out her phone and check for messages. Nikki tries to call Ben, but hears only the sound of the line ringing repeatedly. She worries when he doesn't answer her call right away. Her concern grows as she stares at her device, waiting for any response. Suddenly, her phone dings with a new notification. She finally gets through and asks Ben if he was busy with something important. Relieved to hear his voice, her racing heart finally begins to calm down. Looking out the window, she spots Ben waiting for her in the parking lot. Ben waves to her from beside his car, signaling that he is ready to pick her up. Nikki waves back with a bright smile, happy to see him after a long day. The cityscape sits under a cloudy sky as the workday finally comes to an end. Ben leans against his car, looking up at the sky with a thoughtful expression. His gaze remains fixed on the horizon as he waits for her to join him. Ben looks on with a calm expression as he listens to a suggestion. Nikki leaps into Ben's arms, excited about the idea of going out for a meal. Ben catches her and suggests visiting a place called Aaron's. He wonders why she specifically wants to go to that restaurant. Nikki explains that it is known as the best steakhouse in the area. Ben immediately pulls out his phone to check for any available tables. Unfortunately, he finds out the restaurant is completely booked for the night. Nikki doesn't give up and suggests they try their luck by waiting in line anyway. Ben gives her a playful pinch and agrees to turn the night into a proper date. They arrive at a massive, modern skyscraper where the restaurant is located. Upon entering, Nikki is surprised to see several tables that appear to be unoccupied. The interior is lavishly decorated with plenty of empty seating visible. Ben smiles, thinking they might actually get a chance to eat after all. Nikki walks up to the reception desk to speak with the hostess. Her expression quickly turns to confusion after receiving an unexpected answer. Ben leans in to ask what the issue is as they stand before the staff. Nikki reports that the hostess claims every single table is already reserved. Suddenly, a loud customer interrupts them, demanding to be seated immediately. A wealthy man accompanied by a woman demands a table. Despite the supposed lack of space, the hostess ignores the couple to lead the new arrivals into the dining area. Nikki and Ben are left standing in the middle of the room, completely disregarded. Nikki stops the staff member to ask why the other man is being seated without a wait. The hostess explains that the man is a regular who pays for exclusive VIP treatment. Nikki points out that since he isn't using the private room, it should be free for others. The hostess loses her patience, explaining that the room is paid for to remain empty. Fed up with the attitude, Ben demands to speak with a manager immediately. The staff member scoffs, telling them that the restaurant's fate isn't their concern. Her face suddenly pales as she realizes someone important is watching. The hostess quickly stands at attention as the manager arrives on the scene. The manager bows deeply and begins apologizing for the poor experience. He nervously asks the couple for any suggestions on how to improve their service. Nikki asks why they were being turned away when so many tables were vacant. She notices the manager is shaking with fear and wonders why he's so intimidated. Ben criticizes the manager for his lack of oversight and the staff's incompetence. Nikki decides it isn't worth the trouble and suggests they just leave. The manager panics and frantically orders the hostess to apologize to them. The hostess bows in shame while the manager continues to grovel before them. Nikki finds the whole situation strange and wonders if the manager knows their identity. A voice from above calls out to them, catching Nikki's attention. A man named Christian Lane waves down at them, noting the coincidence of their meeting. A luxurious private room is prepared overlooking the Emerald River cityscape. Christian Lane surveys the high-end dining area with the manager following closely behind. Christian gestures toward the space, settling on the perfect spot for his upcoming meeting. His phone begins to vibrate in his pocket, interrupting the walkthrough. Christian takes the call with a smirk, inviting a guest to join him for dinner. After hanging up, he keeps his phone ready as he plans his next move. He informs the staff that his friends will be arriving soon and expects them to be shown to the room immediately. Christian's expression sharpens as he prepares to give the manager a very specific warning. He warns the staff not to judge his friends by their modest attire, emphasizing their extreme importance. The manager begins to panic, realizing the gravity of the situation and the potential for a massive mistake. Christian greets Ben and Nikki, while the manager trembles in the background at the sight of the influential trio. The manager is overwhelmed with dread, knowing they cannot afford to offend anyone in this group. Christian offers to treat Nikki to dinner, hoping to bridge the gap between them. Ben remains skeptical, his expression darkening as he considers Christian's sudden hospitality. Nikki looks startled as Ben prepares to decline the invitation on their behalf. Ben leads Nikki away, stating they've changed their minds about eating at the establishment. Christian stands stunned, unable to believe his invitation was just rejected so flatly. The couple begins to walk away, their footsteps echoing through the lobby. Nikki glances back, clearly confused by the strange tension in the air. Christian turns his frustration toward the staff, demanding to know who offended his friends. He demands a full explanation from the manager for the poor customer service his guests receive. The manager immediately fires the rude hostess to appease Christian's wrath. To make amends, a prestigious VIP keepsake is offered to the couple. Nikki hesitates, unsure if she should accept such an extravagant peace offering. Ben takes the charm with a cold gaze, ensuring the staff knows such disrespect won't be tolerated again. Ben acknowledges that he owes Christian one, though the air between them remains thick with rivalry. Christian's face freezes in surprise when Ben insists on leaving anyway. Despite Christian's pleas for them to stay, Ben continues to lead Nikki out of the restaurant. Nikki looks up at Ben, wondering about the complex dynamics between these powerful men. Christian tries a different tactic, playfully asking if he can just tag along with them instead. Ben casts a sharp, sidelong glance back at the persistent intruder. The couple stares in disbelief as Christian continues his antics to get his way. Nikki reminds Ben that Christian defended her in the past, suggesting they should be more polite. Ben begrudgingly nods, agreeing to follow Nikki's lead on how to handle the situation. The couple shares a sweet moment together, leaving Christian feeling like a complete outsider. Christian scoffs as he watches the two walk away, annoyed by Ben's sudden shift in mood. Ben holds up a VIP Hotel Irene card while they ride in the car. Nikki questions why he accepted the card, given his earlier refusal to return to the establishment. Ben smiles, telling her to keep it since it was free and could be used with her colleagues. Nikki reaches out and gently tugs on Ben's sleeve to get his full attention. She reminds him that he won their bet regarding the work project. Nikki explains that although their names will be on the design, no disciplinary action was taken against Abigail. She looks at him and asks for his thoughts on the unfair resolution at her office. Nikki declares her intention to quit her job if a satisfactory solution isn't reached by tomorrow. Ben looks surprised by her sudden resolve to leave the company. He reveals that her company is being bought out and suggests waiting to see the upcoming personnel changes. Nikki is shocked to hear rumors of an acquisition that even the employees didn't know about. Ben plays it cool, claiming he merely overheard Mr. Hamilton mention something about Lion Cloud. Nikki realizes the rumors about the acquisition must be true if a high-profile figure like Hamilton is talking about it. She leans in closer and asks Ben if he knows who the potential buyer is. Ben maintains his poker face, stating he wasn't part of that specific conversation. He gently pats her head and holds her hand to comfort her as they travel. Nikki smiles warmly, clearly enjoying the supportive moment with Ben. Christian, who is driving the car, coasts to interrupt the couple as he blushes at their display of affection. Nikki turns bright red, suddenly remembering they aren't alone in the vehicle. Christian awkwardly points out that they have arrived at their destination while Ben looks on with a bored expression. Nikki looks out the window, eager to see where they've stopped. The group arrives at a restaurant called Fantasy Fish, decorated with traditional lanterns. The car door shuts with a loud thud as everyone prepares to head inside. Nikki points toward the entrance while Christian stands by, waiting for further instructions. Christian looks completely drained after serving as the couple's personal driver. Ben casually tosses the car keys to Christian, telling him where to park using the GPS. Christian sighs to himself, regretting his decision to tag along just to be treated like a valet. Ben and Nikki wait outside the restaurant's red-curtained entrance for Christian to join them. A bell rings as they step inside the cozy establishment. The waitress greets them with a notepad in hand, ready to take their information. She stares in awe, her eyes practically sparkling at the sight of the newcomers. Both Ben and Christian radiate a handsome aura that captivates everyone in the room. The entire staff is mesmerized as the group asks for a private room. The hostess regains her composure and offers them a large open table, since the private rooms are full. Christian agrees to the seating arrangement, while Nikki looks around the lively dining room. Nikki gives a cheerful smile, happy to finally be getting some food. She leads the way to the table with plenty of energy, leaving the men to follow behind. Christian breaks into a slight sweat, feeling the weight of Ben's intense gaze. He internally panics, wanting to prove his innocent intentions to the overprotective husband. The menu features clear photos of the various seafood dishes offered at the restaurant. Christian looks over the menu, noting that the names are much simpler than at fancy high-end places. Ben suggests that Nikki should be the one to order since she is familiar with the menu. Christian smiles and asks if he can drop the formalities and simply call her Nikki. Nikki is taken aback by the request, wondering if they are really close enough for nicknames. Ben surprises her by giving his approval, noting that Christian is close with her best friend Maya. The waitress rushes back to the table as the group prepares to place their order. Nikki points out several items in the menu, and the waitress happily writes them down. Christian watches Nikki with a pleasant expression, seemingly enjoying the casual atmosphere. He looks confused when a small bowl is placed in front of him, seemingly staring back at him. Ben pours water into a bowl to prepare the table for their meal. Christian watches with a look of pure confusion as he tries to understand the local dining customs. Ben sits back calmly, explaining that the water is simply for rinsing the tableware. Christian has a comical, stunned reaction after realizing he shouldn't have been staring so intensely at the bowl. Nikki observes Christian's awkwardness and wonders if this casual dining experience is too overwhelming for a rich kid. Christian looks on with a dazed expression, feeling completely out of his element. Nikki excitedly explains that the restaurant's signature, fantasy fish, is a must-try exotic dish. A chibi, Nikki enthusiastically encourages the group to dig in. Christian agrees to the meal, though he still looks a bit bewildered by the situation. The signature dish arrives, featuring a large fish served in a simmering pot over an open flame. Ben carefully uses his chopsticks to serve a deboned piece of fish directly to Nikki. Nikki is delighted by the attentive service and the delicious smell of the food. Ben smiles warmly, clearly enjoying the chance to take care of his wife during dinner. Christian finally takes a bite and is immediately taken aback by the quality of the meal. He is visibly impressed, realizing the food is both juicy and delicate. The trio enjoys the lively atmosphere of the restaurant while they finish their meal. Nikki mentions that while this food is great, Ben's own cooking is actually superior. Christian is shocked to learn that someone as high profile as Ben spends any time in the kitchen. Nikki proudly reaffirms that her husband is an excellent cook while they wrap up their various side dishes. Christian looks skeptical as he processes this new information about Ben's hidden talents. He quickly regains his composure and reminds them that he is still acting as their driver for the evening. Nikki politely asks if he would like to come over to their place after they finish. Ben immediately shuts the idea down, noting they only live a few blocks away and don't need the company. A smug chibi Ben watches as Christian reacts with visible frustration at being excluded. Ben makes it clear that his cooking skills are reserved exclusively for Nikki. Christian jokingly questions if they are even friends anymore while they sit at the table. A plate is whisked away as the group continues to clear the table. A massive stack of empty bowls begins to grow as the meal progresses. Nikki and Ben watch in stunned silence as Christian single-handedly devours an incredible amount of food. Nikki wonders if Christian has been starving himself before this dinner outing. Ben assumes he is simply a wealthy foodie who enjoys a massive appetite. Chibi versions of the couple decide to order yet another round of the signature fish dish. Despite the quantity, Christian continues to eat at a steady and refined pace. They signal the kitchen to bring out one more order of fantasy fish to satisfy the group. The next morning at Lion Cloud, the office is buzzing with news that the acquisition is officially finalized. Management warns the staff that the new owner is coming for a site survey and is notoriously difficult to please. Nikki and her friend are thrilled, hoping the new regime will finally get rid of slackers like Abigail. They gossip about whether the current leadership will even manage to keep their jobs after today. The office erupts in sudden shock and excitement as the new boss finally arrives. A crowd of employees rushes toward the entrance to catch a glimpse of the mysterious leader. The staff members immediately start whispering about how incredibly attractive the new boss is. Two workers bicker and push each other while trying to get a better view of the entrance. Nikki stands back as a stylish man in a suit makes his grand entrance into the building. The new leader strikes a confident pose, immediately commanding the attention of the entire floor. He scans the crowd until his eyes land on a specific face. He breaks his professional demeanor and gives us a cheerful, casual wave. Nikki is completely floored when she realizes the new boss is actually Christian. The senior managers look on in absolute horror and disbelief at the sudden turn of events. Christian explains that he had no idea Nikki worked at Lion Cloud, Otherwise, he would have asked her about the company during dinner the previous night. The office manager is left sweating in panic, realizing that Nikki might actually be the influential person rumors suggested. Nikki asks what he is doing there, still processing the sudden change in management. As employees pass by in the background, the weight of the situation begins to sink in for everyone present. Christian reveals his grand plan to grow Lion Cloud as a massive surprise for Maya's career. A tiny, shocked manager watches as the two chat casually, realizing the new boss bought the entire company just to please his girlfriend. Christian leans in and asks Nikki to keep this entire takeover a secret for now. He whispers that it isn't the right time to let Maya in on the surprise just yet. Nikki gives him a reassuring pat on the shoulder, telling him to relax since her lips are sealed. She smiles confidently, promising not to let his hard work go to waste. Christian acts bashful and thanks her, appearing much more approachable than his new CEO title suggests. He wonders aloud when the best time to reveal the truth would be. Nikki suggests that Maya's upcoming birthday would be the perfect occasion to gift her the company. She points out that it would be an unforgettable gesture. However, a sudden realization hits Nikki, causing her to freeze in place. She imagines a future where Maya is the high-powered boss of the company, lounging with a cigar. Nikki realizes that if the plan goes through, Maya will technically be her boss. The mood shifts when Christian blankly asks when Maya's birthday actually is, sparking Nikki's temper. Nikki is absolutely furious that he claims to be serious about her, but hasn't even bothered to learn her birthday. Christian awkwardly scratches his head, admitting he simply never thought to ask. Rumors of Christian being a playboy flash through Nikki's mind, making her doubt his intentions. She points a finger at him, preparing to deliver a serious warning. She tells him flatly to stay away from Maya if he isn't fully committed to a real relationship. Christian panics and waves his hands, insisting that his feelings for her are completely genuine. The two continue to bicker in the middle of the office while the rest of the staff watches the strange interaction in total silence. An assistant eventually interrupts to let Mr. Lane know it is time for his scheduled meeting. As he walks away, Christian casually offers to treat Nikki to dinner that evening. Nikki waves him off, saying she will check with Ben before agreeing to the plans. The surrounding co-workers are left completely dumbstruck by the informal way Nikki treats the new owner. One of the office girls rushes up to Nikki, desperate to know how she is on such friendly terms with the CEO. Nikki keeps it humble, explaining that their families have simply known each other for a long time. Her coworkers are amazed by her modesty, finding her even more impressive than before. Later, Nikki stands alone in the office and pulls out her phone to send a quick update. She texts Ben to let him know that Christian is her new boss and has invited them both to dinner. Nikki wonders if Christian would even enjoy the casual hot pot dinner Ben had originally planned. Ben replies with a cynical text, suggesting Christian will show up regardless just to stay in their social circle. Nikki smiles at her phone, realizing that Ben's assessment of the situation is likely correct. Meanwhile, Christian remains determined to eventually prove the depth of his feelings. In the background, Abigail watches Nikki with a cold stare while she adjusts her makeup. She turns with a sharp, suspicious look, clearly plotting her next move. Nikki senses the gaze and looks over, wondering what kind of trouble Abigail is planning to stir up now. Nikki peeks around the corner to see what her rival is planning. She spots Abigail waiting in the hallway, looking like she is expecting someone important. The elevator arrives with a distinct sound, signaling the arrival of the CEO. Christian steps out of the elevator looking exhausted and loosens his tie after a long day of work. Abigail immediately intercepts him to suggest dinner at a fancy restaurant, making the surrounding staff wonder what is going on. Christian looks at her with an unimpressed and skeptical expression, clearly not interested in the offer. While Abigail fawns over the new boss, the manager nearby breaks into a nervous sweat. Seeing the interaction from a distance, Nikki realizes she needs to step in before things get too cozy. Nikki's heels click against the floor as she rushes toward the group to intervene. She greets Christian casually and asks if his meeting has finally come to an end. Christian's face lights up with a warm smile as soon as he sees her. Abigail is stunned to realize that Nikki and the new CEO are already on a first-name basis. Nikki invites Christian to join her and Benjamin for a home-cooked hot pot dinner instead. Christian agrees and tells his assistant to let the driver go because he won't be needing a ride to any banquet. Abigail is absolutely furious that Nikki just ruined her carefully laid plans. An assistant holds Abigail back, explaining that the CEO is heading to a private gathering with friends. A senior manager barks at Abigail to stay in her lane and stop causing a scene. Abigail glares in frustration as she is ordered to get back to her desk. She turns away with an angry huff, forced to admit defeat for now. Nikki watches her rival stomp off, satisfied that her plan worked perfectly. Once the coast is clear, Nikki lets out a long sigh of relief. Night falls over the city as the group arrives at Nikki's home. The scene shifts to the exterior of a stylish apartment building where the dinner will take place. A hand reaches for the door handle as they prepare to head inside. Benjamin opens the door wearing a floral apron and invites everyone to come in and change into slippers. Christian stands behind Nikki, looking completely flustered by Benjamin's domestic appearance. The delicious smell of food pulls everyone into the kitchen as they prepare for the meal. Christian takes a quick look around the living room, internally comparing the modest space to his own massive estate. Benjamin notices the CEO's wandering eyes and tells him to finish his tour so they can eat. Christian tries his best to suppress a laugh at the sight of the serious Benjamin Jacek playing chef. He is genuinely shocked to find out that a man of Benjamin's status actually knows how to cook. Nikki hopes that their humble home isn't too simple for a billionaire's taste. Christian gives a thumbs up, jokingly commenting that the floral apron actually looks great on Benjamin. Nikki reveals that the apron is actually hers, but Benjamin is the one who does most of the cooking at home. The trio sits down at the dining table to enjoy the hot feast together. Christian mentions how he used to fly across the world whenever he had a craving for these specific ingredients. Nikki is happy that they could provide a meal that reminds him of home. As he eats, Christian realizes that Benjamin went through all this effort just to make him feel welcome. He is so touched by the gesture that his eyes start to fill with tears of gratitude. Benjamin tells him to save the drama while Christian continues to sob over the delicious meal. Benjamin casually mentions that he was planning to make hot pot for Nikki anyway, regardless of guests. He explains that since they owed Christian a treat, it just made sense to do it all at once. Benjamin wears a smug grin as he prepares to make a joke about their lifestyle. Nikki and Benjamin proudly declare that they live on a strict budget, leaving the CEO completely speechless. Hands exchange a chilled beverage to go with the hot pot meal. Christian holds his drink and compliments Benjamin's cooking skills. Benjamin opens his own drink and mentions he's been honing his skills for the year they've been married. The two men share a friendly toast to celebrate the evening. Benjamin asks Christian to ensure he treats Nikki fairly at the office. Christian takes a sip while considering the request for professional conduct. He sets his drink down firmly as the conversation turns serious. Christian asks Nikki if she has ever faced unfair treatment or been sidelined at work. Nikki listens as the discussion shifts toward her recent professional projects. Christian looks concerned as he waits for her to elaborate on her experience. Nikki explains how a design she worked tirelessly on was taken by someone else. She reveals that Abigail Young is the one responsible for the theft. Christian slams the table in frustration after hearing about the office politics. He expresses his outrage that such unreliable leadership is allowed to continue. Benjamin reminds him to stay calm to avoid a mess with the hot soup. Christian promises Nikki that he will investigate the situation thoroughly. He vows to resolve any internal problems to help the company succeed. Christian prepares to head home after a successful dinner gathering. He stretches and admits that he enjoyed the meal a bit too much. Nikki and Christian finish off the remaining food together. Christian admits he's feeling overwhelmed by the mess he inherited with the new company. Benjamin encourages him, noting that saving a failing business would be very impressive. Christian ponders whether his success would truly make a positive impact. He opens the door to his vehicle to depart for the evening. Christian waves a final goodbye as he sits inside the car. Back inside, Nikki has fallen fast asleep on the sofa. Benjamin walks over to check on his sleeping wife in the quiet living room. He carefully moves to help her get settled for the night. Benjamin gently assists Nikki as she starts to wake up. He provides support as she prepares to move from the couch. Benjamin continues to help her stand up and move through the house. Nikki rests her hand on his shoulder for balance as they walk. Benjamin carries her the rest of the way to ensure she gets to her destination safely. He looks at her with a soft expression while offering steady support. Outside, Christian's car pulls away and drives down the quiet street. Christian sits in the back of the car, looking out at the city lights. The warmth of the home they left behind is visible through the window. Christian remains silent as he reflects on the evening's events. He quietly admits to himself that he is envious of the couple's simple happiness. The driver asks for clarification, but Christian brushes it off. Christian puts on a friendly smile and insists everything is fine. The city lights shimmer across the skyline as evening settles over the high-rise buildings. Inside a quiet bathroom, the atmosphere is calm and still behind the privacy of the curtains. Rose petals drift slowly across the surface of the water, creating a peaceful scene. Benjamin watches with a gentle, appreciative smile on his face. He playfully reaches out to pinch Nicolette's cheek while she rests. She reacts with a funny, puffed-out expression as he continues the lighthearted teasing. Nicolette reaches out from the water, calling out to him after being woken up. She suddenly splashes water toward him, catching him completely off guard. She flashes a confident, mischievous grin from the tub. Her gaze becomes intense and focused as she issues a playful challenge. Benjamin looks down, his expression shifting to a more serious tone. His shirt is damp from the water as he stands amidst a decorative floral backdrop. He adjusts his hair and begins to unbutton his wet shirt, questioning her if she's ready for him to join her. Nicolette quickly hides her blushings behind her hands, overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events. Benjamin leans in with a determined and slightly flushed look. A large splash of water erupts in the room as the scene concludes. The next day, the bright morning sun shines over the bustling city streets. Nicolette rushes through the sidewalk, realizing she is running incredibly late. She arrives at her destination completely out of breath and exhausted from the sprint. Her colleague Lily sneaks up behind her at the office to surprise her. Lily wears a mischievous grin, immediately teasing Nicolette about the reason for her late arrival. Nicolette panics and tries to explain that her flexible work schedule allowed for a bit of extra sleep. Lily laughs it off and pats her head, informing her that Mr. Lane is waiting for a meeting. Nicolette imagines a positive outcome for the upcoming discussion regarding the company's future. She looks confused when Lily suddenly asks if she has always been kind to her. Lily gives her a quick hug, hoping Nicolette will look out for her if she gets promoted to supervisor. Nicolette notices her friend's sudden shift in mood and asks if everything is all right. Lily looks away, mentioning her deep desire to provide a better life for her son. She opens up about her personal struggles, explaining that her husband has been unemployed for years. Lily fidgets nervously while whispering that it might be time for her to seek a divorce. Nicolette grabs Lily's hands in a firm gesture of support. She promises to stay by her mentor's side and never leave her in a difficult position. Lily touches her chin, reflecting on the need to earn as much as possible while she is still able to work. She gives Nicolette one last encouraging pat on the head. Nicolette is reminded that the CEO is waiting and she needs to head in immediately. While walking down the hall, she reaches into her pocket to find her phone. She pulls it out and quickly begins tapping out a message. After finishing the text, she slips the device back into her pocket. She holds her blushing cheeks, feeling a sudden surge of affection. Nicolette continues walking toward the office with a look of newfound determination. A sent message on her phone screen expresses her deep gratitude to Benjamin for being a hardworking and supportive partner. The scene begins at the door of the CEO's office. Nicolette stands outside looking incredibly nervous about the upcoming meeting. She finds it hard to believe that the office is dangerous enough to require two massive bodyguards at the door. One of the guards politely informs her that the CEO is ready to see her. Just as she's about to enter, the office door swings open on its own. Christian Lane steps out and immediately tells Nikki to come along with him. Nikki follows him with a sense of dread, unsure of where they are heading. They make their way through the office hallways toward a large meeting room. The duo enters a room packed with employees who are already deep in conversation. The staff begins to whisper, questioning the nature of the relationship between Nikki and this mysterious man. Christian takes a seat at the head of the long conference table. An assistant officially introduces Christian Lane as the new leader of the group. Christian introduces himself with a playful salute and a confident wink. The presentation clearly works, as several employees are immediately charmed by his appearance. He begins the meeting by pointing out the absence of the previous leadership. Christian explains that the prior management simply failed to meet the necessary performance standards. The room's atmosphere shifts to one of pure shock as the weight of his words sets in. He coldly announces that those who have outlived their usefulness will be facing layoffs. Turning toward the next order of business, he looks over at Nikki as he prepares a difficult announcement. Staff members begin passing around design evaluation forms for a mandatory week-long assessment. Christian watches the room with a smirk, setting a strict deadline for the upcoming Tuesday. Nikki is taken aback by how quickly his charming demeanor turned into a cold business persona. She stands behind him while he maintains a stern, professional expression. Abigail interrupts the meeting by raising her hand to claim she never received an instruction sheet. Nikki tries to address the oversight with Christian, but he remains focused on the interruption. He offers a polite smile and asks Abigail to provide her name. Abigail takes the opportunity to pose confidently, hoping to catch the new CEO's attention. Lost in her own thoughts, Abigail looks completely smitten with her new boss. She tries to act cute and bubbly, hoping to win him over with her personality. Christian keeps his cool and confirms that he is indeed speaking to Abigail Young. Without a hint of hesitation, he orders her immediate dismissal from the company. Abigail's confidence vanishes instantly, leaving her sweating and confused by the sudden firing. Security moves in to escort the stunned designer out of the conference room. Nikki watches silently as the situation unfolds while Christian remains unmoved. Infuriated, Abigail glares back at the room with pure hatred in her eyes. She demands an explanation for the firing, claiming she has done nothing wrong. Abigail lunges toward Nikki, accusing her of spreading lies to the new CEO. Nikki remains calm and asks if Abigail will ever take responsibility for stealing their work. Other employees join in, questioning how she could have possibly come up with her recent designs. As the entire room turns against her, Abigail stands humiliated and cornered. Finally reaching her breaking point, she snaps and screams at everyone to be quiet. Gossip spreads through the office about Abigail's recent behavior and the stolen designs. Abigail stands amidst the whispers, looking visibly shaken by the public scrutiny. She clenches her fist in frustration, trying to maintain her composure. Abigail looks down with a grimace, realizing she needs to change her strategy. She puts on a desperate performance, crying and claiming she was forced into her action. Christian listens to her explanation with a calm, analytical expression. Abigail continues her act, painting herself as a victim to gain sympathy. Nicolette realizes that Abigail is taking advantage of the former manager's absence to lie. The board meeting continues as everyone observes the unfolding drama. Christian decides to allow Abigail to remain with the company for the time being. Abigail shoots a smug glance at Nicolette, who remains silent and suspicious. After the meeting concludes, Christian and Nicolette exit the room together. Nicolette voices her concerns about Abigail's obvious manipulation. Christian explains that Abigail's talent for acting makes her a perfect fit for public relations. Nicolette is stunned by the unexpected decision to keep her rival employed. She expresses her frustration, but Christian promises to keep the situation under control. Nicolette feels her phone vibrating and hopes it's a call from her husband. She answers the call and is relieved to hear Ben's voice on the other end. During the conversation, she notices that Ben sounds unusually exhausted. Ben informs her that he must leave for a business trip for a week. Nicolette insists on seeing him immediately before he departs the next morning. She looks toward Christian, realizing she is still technically on the clock. Christian observes her reaction with a neutral and quiet gaze. Nicolette explains to Ben that Christian is standing right next to her. Nicolette clutches her chest as she realizes she needs to ask for permission to leave. Christian gives Nicolette a cheerful sign and approves her early leave. Nicolette smiles brightly, grateful for the sudden permission to go. She quickly heads out of the office to meet Ben at the station. She looks back one last time as she rushes toward the exit. Christian watches her go and tells her that she will always be cared for. Nicolette is momentarily confused by the strange sentimentality of his words. She brushes it off and continues running to meet Ben on time. The city skyline passes by as she makes her way to the meeting spot. Nicolette arrives at the designated location and waves to get Ben's attention. She spots Ben leaning against his car and waits for him to see her. She slows her pace as she gets closer to her husband. Ben stands by his vehicle, looking somber as he waits for her arrival. Nicolette approaches him, sensing that something is weighing on his mind. Ben looks down with a serious expression before addressing her. He looks up and greets her with a gentle, reassuring smile. The two stand together as Ben reminds her of a previous agreement they made. Ben reaches out and takes her hand in a gesture of partnership. He leans in close, resting his head near hers in a moment of shared closeness. Nicolette looks at him with a warm smile, affirming her commitment to stay by his side. Ben gazes back at her, seemingly lost in the moment. The couple shares a brief, close embrace near the car. They lean toward one another to share a quiet moment of personal affection. The two maintain a very close, face-to-face interaction during their farewell. They continue their close proximity as they enjoy each other's company. Ben and Nikki stand together amidst falling petals, expressing their mutual care. The alarm clock strikes nearly 1 in the afternoon, blaring its persistent wake-up call. Still groggy, the character shifts under the covers after a restless night. Nikki lies back against the pillow, her expression clouded with confusion over recent events. She stares ahead, her green eyes reflecting a deep sense of unease. The sudden chime of the doorbell echoes through the quiet apartment. Nikki makes her way toward the entrance to see who has arrived unannounced. Maya stands at the door with a bright smile, having traveled quite a distance to visit. The two friends catch up quickly, with Nikki offering her a place to stay while Ben is away. Just as things settle down, another chime from the doorbell catches Nikki off guard. She reaches out to pull the handle, curious about the second visitor of the day. Christian stands in the hallway, offering a casual wave as he explains his presence. He mentions he expected Maya to be here, though the atmosphere remains somewhat tense. Inside the living area, Maya hides out of sight, begging Nikki not to reveal her location. Nikki stands awkwardly in the foyer, trying to manage the situation without giving Maya away. The scene shifts to the bathroom where fresh towels are laid out for the guests. Steam fills the room as Maya prepares to refresh herself after her journey. Behind the door, Maya listens intently to the conversation happening in the other room. A look of sadness or deep reflection crosses her face as she processes what she hears. Christian pauses to look at a small keepsake hanging on the wall before preparing to leave. His expression remains unreadable, though there is a hint of calculation in his eyes. After granting Nikki some time off to host her friend, Christian departs for the office. Later that day, Nikki settles onto the sofa to start a video call with her husband. Ben appears on the screen, looking exhausted from his travels but glad to see her. Nikki laughs playfully, trying to cheer him up despite the distance between them. Ben walks through the grand, sunlit corridor of a high-end hotel. He keeps his focus on his phone, promising Nikki that he will return home in just a few days. Nikki smiles warmly, telling him to rest well after his long drive. With a final word, Ben terminates the call and lowers his device. His gentle demeanor vanishes instantly, replaced by a cold and sharp intensity. He pushes open a set of heavy, ornate double doors to enter a meeting room. Several men waiting inside stand at attention as the young master arrives. Ben walks past the group with an air of authority that leaves his subordinates nervous. Every step he takes is deliberate, signaling his return to a world he tried to leave behind. He stands before a massive glass window, looking out over the sprawling nighttime city. He expresses his irritation at being forced back into these family dealings. Turning back, he delivers a stern warning to ensure Nikki's absolute safety. The man in charge bows deeply, clearly terrified by Ben's uncompromising stance. Ben remains silhouetted against the city lights, burdened by the weight of his responsibilities. He opens his keepsakes to look at a cherished image of Nikki, his only source of peace. He recalls a moment of comfort, vowing to never let her suffer again. Looking down at a small note she left him, his expression softens momentarily. He holds the paper close, drawing strength from her words before facing the coming conflict. A mysterious figure suddenly appears in the shadows of the doorway. A woman with long, flowing hair reveals herself, claiming she has finally returned for good. Nikki and her friend Lily head out for a celebratory steak dinner using a special membership card. The elevator arrives with a chime as they prepare to enter the restaurant. Inside, Lily reminds her young son, Manny, to maintain proper manners in a public space. Lily looks up in surprise when she realizes she has run into a familiar face. Nikki waves cheerfully, happy to cross paths with her friend at the establishment. Lily explains she's treating her son after earning a significant commission on a recent project. Manny suddenly spots a peer and runs off to say hello, leaving the adults behind. mind. The young boy innocently asks another child about the woman accompanying him. Manny wonders aloud if the woman is the other boy's father's new girlfriend. The woman, Abigail, is immediately offended by the child's blunt questioning. Abigail snaps at Manny, demanding to know who raised such a rude child. Scared by the outburst, Manny runs back to his mother in tears while Abigail continues to fume. Lily protectively pulls her crying son into a hug and confronts Abigail for scaring him. Abigail turns to her companion Liam, looking for support in the heated exchange. Nikki approaches the scene to see what the commotion is about. Liam recognizes Nikki and realizes she is far too well connected to be provoked. Nikki checks in on Lily while Liam tries to de-escalate by telling Abigail she's overreacting to a child. Abigail is outraged that her companion is siding with the strangers instead of her. Liam loses his patience and snaps back, clearly worried about the social repercussions of Abigail's behavior. Liam quickly ushers Abigail and the other child away to avoid further trouble with Nikki. Abigail shoots a venomous look back, her anger toward Nikki and Lily intensifying. She vows silently to find a way to get even with both of them for the public humiliation. The restaurant manager arrives to apologize and offers the group a private room to settle their nerves. The manager reflects on how drama always seems to follow Nikki, though he's happy she remains a customer. Maya excuses herself to use the restroom, telling the others to head to the private room first. Nikki and Lily settle into their quiet dining area while Manny plays nearby. Lily asks about the beautiful young lady they are with and why Ben didn't join them. Nikki prepares to answer while setting down her tea, the mood shifting to a more serious tone. Lily is shocked to learn that Nikki still hasn't met any of Ben's family members. She leans in close, prying for more information about Ben's mysterious background and family fallout. Nikki admits she doesn't know much but trusts that Ben has his own reasons for the secrecy. Lily finds it hard to believe Nikki is comfortable with such a massive secret after a year of marriage. Nikki explains that since she has her own family issues, she understands why Ben would want distance from his. Lily worries about what might happen if Ben's family eventually disapproves of Nikki. Nikki firmly states that if they didn't like her, she simply wouldn't bother with them ever again. Maya returns to the table and is surprised to find that the group hasn't even ordered yet. The trio begins browsing the menu to finally get their dinner started. Maya and Manny share a friendly greeting as the atmosphere lightens up. Despite the conversation moving on, Lily's questions about Ben's family continue to weigh on Nikki. Nikki wonders if she should be more concerned about her husband's mysterious relatives. Maya's phone buzzes with a sudden text message that catches her off guard. She looks visibly shaken after seeing that the message is from Christian. Panicked, Maya asks to borrow Nikki's phone under the pretense that her own battery is dying. Nikki hands over her device without suspicion, focusing on the menu. The phone slips from their hands and tumbles toward the floor. As the phone hits the ground, several notifications pop up on the screen with a loud chime. Maya desperately tries to block Nikki's view of the screen as she reaches for it. Nikki manages to grab the phone and sees something that stops her in her tracks. A look of pure shock crosses Nikki's face as she processes the image on the display. Nikki scrolls through the phone while Maya watches with visible anxiety. Examining the screen closely, Nikki concludes that the image has been digitally altered. Maya is stunned by the news that the evidence is a complete fabrication. Nikki points to the specific section of the screen where the manipulation occurred. Maya vents her frustration at the sender for trying to pass off such a poor edit to a professional. The group continues sitting together as the tension from the discovery lingers. A waiter brings the final dishes to the table, and the meal officially begins. Under the table, Nikki clenches her fist, still feeling deeply bothered by the identity of the woman in the photo. Maya looks over at her friend, sensing that the message has significantly dampened her mood. Nikki remains silent, mentally questioning the sender's motives and Maya's prior knowledge of the situation. She forces a smile and encourages everyone to eat despite her internal turmoil. The table is crowded with food while the young boy eats with gusto. Nikki stares down at her plate, too distracted by her thoughts to actually take a bite. Suddenly, she stands up and announces that she needs to head home immediately to handle something. Maya is surprised by the sudden exit and mentions she is also leaving to meet Christian. The two friends part ways, leaving the rest of the group to finish their dinner. The remaining woman stays to supervise the child as they continue eating. The city lights shimmer against the backdrop of the evening sky. Nikki enters her quiet apartment, feeling the weight of the day finally catching up to her. She takes a moment to breathe and decompress from the shocking events at the restaurant. Moving into the living room, she begins to settle in for the night. Nikki starts to adjust her clothing, looking for a way to relax. The mystery of the sender continues to occupy her thoughts as she stands alone. A series of loud thuds at the front door breaks the silence of the apartment. Startled, Nikki turns toward the sound and wonders who could be knocking so urgently. Ben is standing at the entrance, appearing feverish and completely soaked through his clothes. Nikki is horrified by his disheveled appearance and asks why he is in such a state. Ben's face is heavily flushed, and he seems to be struggling to remain conscious. Nikki immediately moves to support him, checking his temperature with her hand. She confirms he is burning up with a fever and urges him to come inside to change. Ben's gaze is unfocused as the illness clearly takes a toll on his motor skills. In a sudden movement, he reaches out and takes hold of Nikki's arm. Ben leans his weight against Nikki, using her as a physical anchor to keep from collapsing. She struggles to balance his weight while he stays close to her for support. Ben mumbles for her to stay by his side, his state of delirium making him clingy. Nikki attempts to gently shift him so she can go find a towel to dry dry him off. Ben's lack of coordination leads to accidental physical contact as he leans heavily into her. His breathing is heavy as he looks at her through a haze of fever and exhaustion. Nicky tries to manage his weight while worrying about the front door remaining open to the hallway. Ben eventually gains enough strength to lift Nicky and move deeper into the apartment. Nicky stares into Ben's eyes, relieved that he finally made it home. Ben leans in close, confirming that he is back for good. Nicky looks up with a serious expression as she begins to discuss the mysterious photo she received. Ben listens intently as Nicky explains that she knew the image was a total fabrication designed to tear them apart. Nicky stretches out comfortably, feeling confident that no one can break her trust in her husband. Nicky rests her hand on the bedsheet, listening as Ben starts to explain the suspicious events that occurred at the hotel. Ben looks at Nicky with sincerity, promising that he would never do anything to hurt her. Nicky reaches up to gently touch Ben's face while affirming her unwavering faith in him. Ben looks down with a solemn expression, vowing to remain faithful for the duration of their marriage. A pair of small birds sit together on a flowering branch, symbolizing the couple's renewed bond. One bird takes flight from the branch as the new morning begins. Nicky lies in bed with a satisfied smile, watching as Ben prepares to get ready for the day. Ben walks down the stairs into the living area to start the morning meal. Ben contemplates whether he should mention the situation involving Rowena to Nicky just yet. The bedroom sits empty and tidy after the couple has moved to the dining area. The two sit down at the dining table to enjoy the fresh breakfast Ben prepared. Nicky enjoys her meal while Ben brings up a serious topic regarding her family. Ben rests his hand near his chopsticks as he prepares to deliver some difficult news. Ben reveals that he heard Nicky's grandfather suffered a stroke and is currently in the hospital. Nicky freezes at the table, her expression turning to one of deep concern for her relative. Nicky's eyes well up with tears as the news about her grandfather's condition sinks in. A flashback shows a younger Nicky sitting with her grandfather while he reads a book to her. Young Nicky smiles happily, cherishing the quiet time spent with her grandfather in the past. A hand reaches out toward a memory of Nicky as a child walking toward a bright light. The scene shifts to the exterior of Christian Lane's large, gated estate. Maya is on the phone inside the house, looking shocked by the information she is receiving. Maya finishes her call while Christian sits nearby, focused on peeling a piece of fruit. Christian explains that he heard about the grandfather's condition and the mysterious circumstances surrounding the incident. Maya stands up in surprise, questioning if someone was intentionally trying to harm the elderly man. Maya leans toward Christian, confused as to why the family would try to keep the medical emergency a secret. Maya confronts Christian with a pressing question about how Ben could have known the news if it was being suppressed. Christian looks thoughtful, considering the implications of Ben's insider information. A decorative window grate frames the scene inside the upscale home. Benjamin and Nicolette sit together in the living room, discussing the recent family developments. Nicolette looks at Benjamin with deep concern, expressing her worry for her grandfather's health. Nicolette admits her hesitation to call her relatives, fearing they won't answer. Benjamin offers a comforting gesture to reassure her during this difficult time. The couple remains on the sofa as Benjamin emphasizes that the grandfather's well-being is the top priority. Taking a deep breath, Nicolette initiates a phone call to get some answers. She waits anxiously for the person on the other end to pick up. Nicolette reaches out to Zayden, asking for an update on her grandfather's condition. Benjamin stands by her side as she reacts with shock to Zayden's surprising question about how she knew. Nicolette looks at Benjamin for support while the conversation continues. At the Grand Jenkins estate, the family remains on high alert. Zayden listens to Benjamin on the phone, his expression shifting to one of suspicion. Standing on the balcony, Zayden questions why Benjamin is with Nicolette. Zayden's anger flares as he warns Benjamin to watch his tone during the call. Benjamin remains firm, stating that he and Nicolette will be visiting regardless of the family's secrecy. Frustrated by the demand, Zayden slams his hand against the railing. He insists that Nicolette cannot return to the estate, pacing the balcony in a rage. Benjamin continues the tense conversation while Nicolette watches him closely. A sharp sound from the other end of the line signals a sudden end to the call. Benjamin hangs up, leaving the room in a heavy silence. Benjamin looks pained as he prepares to deliver the grim news about the grandfather's condition. Nicolette gasps in horror upon learning about the stroke's lasting effects on her grandfather. Tears well up in her eyes as the reality of the situation sinks in. Benjamin holds her close, attempting to provide some solace. Overwhelmed with grief, Nicolette insists on seeing her grandfather immediately. Benjamin agrees to her request, looking at her with a somber expression. Back at the mansion, Zayden stares out from the balcony as Nina approaches him. Nina confronts Zayden, demanding to know who he was speaking with so secretly. Zayden's face hardens with annoyance as he tries to ignore her. Nina grows more persistent, questioning the nature of the phone call. She looks at him with growing suspicion, sensing he is hiding something. Zayden tries to brush her off, claiming it was just a work-related matter. Nina refuses to believe his excuse, yelling at him for lying to her. Zayden turns his back on her, hoping to end the confrontation. Nina grabs his arm in a desperate attempt to get the truth out of him. Zayden Ben's frustration peaks as he stares her down with an icy gaze. He roughly pulls his arm away, making it clear he is done with the conversation. Nina is left behind, crying out his name as her composure breaks. Zedin walks away down the corridor, ignoring the staff watching the scene. Nina sinks to the floor in despair, completely overwhelmed by her emotions. She grits her teeth, her sadness turning into a bitter resentment. Nina wonders aloud why everyone, including the grandfather and Zedin, prioritizes Nicolette over her. Ben packs a suitcase while contemplating if Nikki is the catalyst for the current family drama. He carefully places important documents into the luggage as he prepares for their next move. As Ben folds clothes, he reflects on the gravity of Mr. Lebov's sudden health crisis. The sound of the doorbell interrupts his thoughts and his packing. The door opens to reveal unexpected visitors arriving at the home. Maya and Christian enter the room, immediately calling out for Nikki. Ben pulls them aside and quietly urges them to help him prevent Nikki from rushing back to the estate. Nikki descends the stairs and is surprised to see her friends waiting for her. Maya rushes forward to give Nikki a supportive and comforting embrace. Noticing Nikki's visible distress, Maya gently checks on her well-being. Nikki insists that she must return to Rodbus immediately despite the circumstances. Maya argues that Nikki won't be granted access to the estate while her grandfather is away. Nikki realizes with a heavy heart that she doesn't even know the location of her grandfather's hospital. Desperate for answers, Nikki turns to Christian and asks for his help in tracking him down. Christian and Ben share a somber look as they weigh the difficulty of the situation. Christian agrees to find the location, but warns that gathering the information will take time. Nikki looks down in resignation, realizing she has no choice but to wait. Ben advises the group to stay put until Christian can provide a solid lead. To offer some comfort, Ben reaches out and holds Nikki's hand. Nikki stands close to Ben and agrees to follow the plan for now. She offers her friends a small, appreciative smile for their loyalty and support. The scene shifts to the bustling city where the characters' daily lives continue. Nikki is back at her office desk, trying to focus on work while holding a cup of coffee. A colleague suddenly approaches her with a surprising update regarding the staff. The coworker reveals that Abigail has resigned and Mr. Lane has finally left for Rodbus. Nikki expresses confusion over why Abigail would quit a position she fought so hard to get. The coworker mentions that Lily has been promoted to team leader in the wake of the changes. Nikki asks about Lily's whereabouts, only to learn that her husband's home is being demolished. A sudden ringing from Nikki's phone on the desk breaks the conversation. Nikki answers the call and is relieved to hear Lily's voice on the other end. The mood shifts instantly as Nikki stands up in shock after hearing that Lily has been injured. Nikki rushes to the hospital complex where Lily is being treated. She finds Lily's young son Manny and picks him up to comfort him. Ben arrives at the hospital shortly after, having rushed there from work to assist Nikki. Ben takes the child from Nikki's arms to help carry the load. Nikki looks on with a concerned expression, worried about the toll this is taking on her friend. Inside the room, Lily explains from her hospital bed that her husband turned violent over their divorce. Unable to care for herself or her son, Lily tearfully asks Nikki to look after Manny for a few days. Ben and Nikki leave the hospital together, with Ben carrying the boy and a bag of supplies. Witnessing Lily's tragedy makes Nikki wonder if a happy, lasting relationship is truly possible. Ben looks at her with determination and reassures her that they will be fine. The couple walks home under the moonlight, confident in the strength of their mutual trust. Manny tosses and turns in bed, calling out for his mother in his sleep. The young boy is clearly distressed as he whimpers through a nightmare. Nikki adjusts the boy's blanket, looking down at him with a face full of concern. In the next room, Ben sits in a chair reading and asks for an update on the child's condition. Nikki joins him, explaining that the boy has finally managed to drift off. She looks at her husband and suggests that he might want to try his hand at childcare. A soft smile plays on her lips as she thinks about their future together. Ben puts his book down, surprised by the sudden direction of the conversation. He leans in close to Nikki, asking if she is interested in starting a family of their own. Their conversation is cut short by a sudden, loud scream coming from the bedroom. Both of them are startled as the child continues to cry out for his mommy. Nikki immediately rushes back to the room to check on the boy. Ben follows close behind, looking troubled by the child's obvious trauma. Manny is wide awake now, sobbing hysterically as he relives a terrifying memory in his mind. Nikki's heart breaks as she sees the pure fear reflected in the young boy's eyes. She leans over the bed to comfort him, whispering that everything is going to be okay. Manny looks up, his eyes blurry with tears as he recognizes Nikki's face. He reaches out for her, desperately seeking some form of security. Nikki pulls him into a warm embrace, letting him cry into her shoulder. Ben watches the touching scene from the doorway, moved by his wife's maternal instincts. He reflects on his own difficult childhood, feeling a deep sense of empathy for the boy. Ben steps into the room, determined to help soothe the child's fears. He reaches out a steady hand to offer his support. Ben sits on the edge of the bed and reassures Manny that he is safe now. Nikki watches him with a tender expression, realizing how much he cares. Ben gently strokes the boy's hair until he finally calms down. Nikki tells Ben that he has the making of a truly great father. Ben looks at her and replies that she will be an equally amazing mother one day. With the crisis of averted, Ben reaches over to turn off the bedside lamp. They settle into bed, with Nikki wishing her husband a peaceful night. Ben smiles back at her, returning the affectionate sentiment. The two of them fall asleep together with Manny tucked safely between them. Ben finally closes his eyes, finding comfort in their shared bond. Nikki wakes up to the sound of clanking coming from the kitchen. She opens her eyes, wondering what the early morning commotion is about. Downstairs, Ben is already wearing an apron and helping Manny at the kitchen counter. The two of them are busy kneading dough and preparing fresh bread together. Manny and Ben look over their shoulders as Nikki enters the room. Manny excitedly tells Nikki that Ben is making breakfast specifically for him. The young boy proudly shows off a flower-shaped pastry he made using a mold. Nikki praises Manny for his hard work and tells him to go ahead and eat. Manny happily runs off to the dining area to enjoy his meal. Nikki reaches out to Ben as he continues working in the kitchen. She gives him a quick hug from behind, noting how well he handles children. They discuss checking Manny's workbook to find out which preschool he attends. While searching through Manny's things on the couch, Nikki finds something unexpected. She immediately calls Ben over to look at the discovery she just made. Inside the bag are a house registration book and property ownership certificates. They realize Lily must have hidden these important documents there for safekeeping. Ben takes on a serious expression as he considers the gravity of the situation. He makes a phone call to Alan, instructing him to investigate Lily's husband. While Manny plays nearby, Ben demands regular updates on the investigation. He stares out at the sky, asserting his authority even while away from his office. His gaze turns cold as he focuses on the task of protecting those in his care. An investigative photo arrives, showing a man walking with a woman named Abigail. The scene shifts to the city's high-rise buildings where Nikki is currently working. Nikki checks her phone and sees the message Ben sent her about the photo. She recognizes Abigail in the photo and is shocked to see her with Lily's husband. Nikki worries that Abigail might be involved in a scheme against Lily. Later at home, a sudden, loud banging erupts at the front door. Ben stands up to handle the aggressive visitor while Nikki watches with concern. He opens the door to find an uninvited guest causing a scene. A hand slams forcefully against the doorframe to keep it open. Lily's husband barges into the house with a menacing grin on his face. He mocks the couple and demands to know where his son is hiding. The intruder demands his belongings back while Manny cowers in the kitchen. Manny is paralyzed with fear, tears streaming down his face as he hides. Ben remains calm and threatens to call the police if the man doesn't leave. The man scoffs and picks up a large decorative vase, ready to cause damage. He grips the ceramic object tightly, showing no intention of backing down. He boasts about his connections to the police commissioner before leaving. The man smashes the vase against the wall, sending shards flying everywhere as Ben protects Nikki. He turns his back and walks away, leaving a trail of destruction behind. Nikki and Ben look on in shock as Manny cries out in pure terror. Ben's face shadows over with an intense, quiet rage at the man's behavior. Nikki rushes to comfort Manny on the floor while Ben stares at the exit. The sheer intensity of the moment feels like a physical tear in their peace. A dark visualization of the domestic chaos Manny has endured flickers by. Ben's eyes burn with a lethal intensity, promising consequences for the intruder. Night settles over the urban landscape. A delivery worker knocks on a door, carrying a small package. The door is unlatched as the occupant prepares to greet the visitor. Abigail opens the door while Julian watches from the living room. The courier hands over a decorative box, claiming it is a gift from a high-profile acquaintance. Abigail eagerly starts to open the mysterious case. She is delighted by the expensive contents glowing inside the box. After closing the door, she feels smug about her current situation. Julian questions her about the visitor and the new item she received. She dismisses his curiosity, telling him it is none of his business. A storm brews outside as lightning flashes across the sky. More aggressive knocking interrupts the quiet of the apartment 15 minutes later. Julian notes that Abigail seems to be having many visitors tonight. A group of police officers stands at the threshold, presenting their official identification. Julian greets the officers familiarly, asking if he can help them. The authorities enter the room to investigate a report of tracing and theft. Julian maintains a confident expression despite the presence of the law. An officer discovers the black box and confirms it matches the description of the stolen items. Abigail protests, claiming the property belongs to her. The officer reveals a high-value set of valuables that serves as incriminating evidence. The pair is left speechless as the gravity of the situation sets in. Both suspects immediately start shouting, trying to shift the blame to one another. The police inform them they must come to the station to explain the possession of the case. Abigail recalls the delivery and realizes she has been led into a trap. She realizes with fury that Nicolette must have orchestrated the entire setup. She tries to plead her case, while Julian grows increasingly agitated in the background. Overwhelmed by anger, Julian lashes out at Abigail for ruining his plans. The officers place Julian in restraints and prepare to escort the pair out. Julian continues to shout about his connections as he is led toward the police vehicle. The patrol car speeds away with its emergency lights flashing. The courier watches from the shadows and confirms the successful operation over the phone. Benjamin receives the call and acknowledges the job well done. Manny approaches Ben in the living room as the call ends. Nicolette looks on, relieved that the immediate threat has been handled. Ben explains that Lily's family is coming to provide her with proper care. Manny asks with excitement if his mother will be recovered. recovering soon. Ben smiles warmly at the boy, offering him the reassurance he needs. The group enjoys a brief moment of domestic tranquility together. A phone on the table begins to ring, breaking the peaceful atmosphere. Nicolette answers to find out that her grandfather is resting but being kept isolated. She hangs up the phone, her face clouded with worry. She tells Ben that they have no choice but to return to Rodbus immediately. The journey begins at Rodbus International Airport, where a plane sits on the tarmac ready for the next move. A car pulls up outside the terminal as the group seeks directions to the house at the bottom of Marilodge Hill. Nicolette looks somber in the back seat, reflecting on the emergency leave she took to handle this family crisis. The car speeds through a winding mountain road as she rushes home to check on her grandfather. They arrive at the massive estate only to find the ornate iron gates firmly shut. A hand reaches out to press the doorbell, signaling their arrival to anyone inside. Nicolette bangs on the metal bars in frustration, wondering why the usual security guard isn't letting them in. A new guard eventually appears, coldly telling her to stop making a scene on private property. Nicolette insists this is her home, while Benjamin tries to resolve the situation over the phone. The guard claims he has never seen her before and refuses to grant her access to the grounds. Benjamin decides it's best to retreat for now since the staff is clearly under orders to keep them out. Nicolette realizes with a heavy heart that Maya's warnings about being barred from her own home were true. Benjamin remains composed, promising they will find another way to deal with the situation. High above on a balcony, a blonde woman watches their departure with a cold, calculating gaze. A servant informs the woman, Miss Shanina, that the visitors have been driven off as instructed. Shanina looks satisfied, determined to ensure Nicolette never sets foot on the property again. Back on the road, the group receives news that Libov Navigations is suffering from a massive disruption in cash flow. Nicolette is visibly shaken, suspecting this financial stress is what triggered her grandfather's stroke. Their driver notes that the timing of the company's collapse is far too suspicious to be a random occurrence. Benjamin probes for more information, asking why the company's capital has suddenly dried up. A flashback reveals that Derek Libov withdrew $300 million to cover personal losses. This massive withdrawal left the entire business strapped for cash and caused investors to flee. Nicolette tearfully explains that the money wasn't lost in bad investments, but rather something much more reckless. A vision of Uncle Derek shows him as a compulsive gambler who wasted the company fortune at the tables. The group discusses how the grandfather's overindulgence of his relative led to this current disaster. Feeling overwhelmed by the betrayal and the crisis, Nicolette breaks down in the back of the car. Benjamin pulls her close to provide comfort, reminding her that no one could have predicted these challenges. He offers a steadying touch as Nicolette vows to make those responsible pay for what they've done. When the driver asks about dinner, Benjamin declines and states that it is time to head home. The driver is caught off guard by the suggestion, as Benjamin is referring to his own family residence. Nicolette looks up in surprise, her tears subsiding as she processes his words. She realizes that he is finally taking her to meet his parents for the first time. Benjamin sits beside her, providing a calm and supportive presence for this major milestone. He gives her a smile, confirming nod to show he is ready for the introduction. The car eventually pulls up to a luxury high-rise where the meeting is set to take place. The elevator reaches the 28th floor. Ben and Nikki walk down a luxury hallway with only 2 units. Ben notes the penthouse floor plan includes a private pool. The massive living room sits empty and unrefined. Nikki asks if Ben's family still resides in Rodbus. Ben smiles while Nikki blushes over her prying question. Ben explains his mother is undergoing medical treatment in Mokana. Nikki looks concerned upon hearing about his mother's health. Ben admits the family situation is complicated. Ben holds Nikki's hands and details his mother's mental health struggles. Ben asks Nikki to visit his mother with him once things settle. Nikki excitedly agrees, touched to be considered family. Ben feels relieved that Nikki is so understanding. Nikki asks for permission to redecorate the sparse apartment. She gleefully imagines turning the space into an indoor garden. Nikki surveys the large windows, planning a stargazing spot. She smiles while including Ben's mother in her future plans. Ben blushes, deeply moved by Nikki's kindness. Nikki describes a sky camping setup to enjoy the city lights. Ben reaches out to connect with her during the quiet moment. Ben holds Nikki close while discussing their future children. The couple shares a tender moment in the moonlit room. They stand together amidst the vast, quiet penthouse. Later, Ben looks on with a soft, reflective expression. Ben explains how relatives were envious of Nikki's inheritance. Nikki suspects Shanina or Eleanor ordered her barred from the estate. Ben listens intently to her concerns about her grandfather. The two share a close conversation about the ongoing family feud. Ben reassures Nikki that help will arrive the next day. Nikki lies awake, her mind racing about the upcoming confrontation. Ben tells Nikki he's almost ready as she waits in the dressing room. Nikki informs Ben that she plans on heading out alone this time. She reflects on the humiliation she faced at her grandfather's birthday party and how she relied too much on others. Nikki is determined not to back down against Shanina or Zaidan anymore. She resolves to find her grandfather, the one person who truly loves her. Ben gives Nikki his full support as she prepares to leave the penthouse. He places his hands on her shoulders, reminding her that she holds the power as the majority shareholder of Lyubov Navigations. Ben assures her that he will be nearby if she needs any assistance. Nikki holds his hand, feeling comforted by his unwavering presence. Nikki arrives at the grand entrance of the estate. She is surprised when a man suddenly approaches her. A staff member bows, explaining he was sent to pick her up because the security guard is a newcomer. Nikki realizes Ben was right, they were already expecting her arrival. From the high-rise window, Ben watches Nikki being escorted toward the building. He wonders how they knew she was there and suspects she is being watched. His eyes narrow with suspicion as he contemplates the family's motives. Ben makes a phone call, requesting to be picked up at the residence. Nikki walks through the hallways, relieved she wasn't blocked at the entrance this time. She follows the staff member through the manicured gardens, wondering if there's a hidden catch. She notices a maid she doesn't recognize watching her closely. Nikki realizes that all the familiar faces have been replaced in just 6 months. Nikki enters the main hall and is immediately greeted by Mrs. Lyubov. Aunt Charmaine puts on a friendly face and asks if Nikki will stay for the new year. Nikki keeps it professional, demanding to see her grandfather immediately. She is shocked to hear her grandfather is resting upstairs in his current state. Nikki rushes toward the stairs, ignoring her aunt's complaints about her lack of manners. Charmaine scowls, thinking that the old man won't be able to protect Nikki much longer. Upstairs, Nikki finds her grandfather in a wheelchair, being attended to by a relative. The grandfather slowly opens his eyes as Nikki approaches. Nikki kneels beside him, taking his hands in hers for support. The old man reaches out a trembling hand, trying to speak her name. Nikki tearfully tells him that she is finally home. He repeats her name, clearly recognizing his granddaughter despite his condition. The relative watching is furious that the grandfather remembers Nikki, but fails to recognize her. Aunt Charmaine explains that his health only recently improved thanks to new medicine. Nikki grows suspicious, realizing someone has been reporting her every move to her family. A staff member sets a bowl down as the family prepares for a meal. The younger woman abruptly leaves, refusing to stay for the family luncheon. Nikki promises her grandfather that she'll take him to stay with her if he isn't treated well. Suddenly, a voice calls out Nikki's name from behind. Nikki is visibly startled by the unexpected arrival. She turns around quickly to face the person who just entered the room. Nikki comes face to face with Zayden, noting that it has been a long time since they last met. Nikki greets Zayden with a casual smile, noting that he still looks as good as ever. Zayden looks back at her with a soft, somewhat pained expression as he utters her name. The two stand on a balcony overlooking the grounds as they attempt to catch up. Zayden reaches out toward her, mentioning how much he missed her while he was away. Nikki immediately flinches and pulls back, stating that she has been doing just fine without him. Zayden retracts his hand and looks disappointed as he brings up the news he heard regarding her company. Nikki stares at him with a cold and distant gaze. Zayden begins to sweat, wondering if he has said something to upset her. Nikki walks away, accusing him and his family of constantly spying on her life. Zayden insists that he only wants to see her happy. He briefly imagines a past version of Nikki smiling brightly while holding a large bouquet of flowers. The memory shatters like glass, revealing the current reality of their broken relationship. Nikki tells him to have some self-respect and reminds him that another family member will be home soon. Zayden looks down solemnly as the image of their happy past continues to crack and fade. Suddenly, Nikki's phone rings with a cheerful audio message from Benjamin. Zayden stands by silently, his expression darkening as he listens to the affectionate message. Nikki responds warmly to Ben, her face lighting up as she promises to see him soon. Seeing her happy with another man, Zayden loses his cool and grabs Nikki's arm to stop her from leaving. He demands to know what she sees in Benjamin, while Nikki struggles to break free from his grip. Nikki demands that he let her go, reminding him that he was the one who walked away first. A flashback shows a younger Nikki pleading with Zayden not to leave her side. Back in the present, Zayden stares at her with a mix of regret and desperation. Memory from the previous night reveals an older man telling Zayden that Nikki isn't over him yet. Zayden promises the man that he won't let him down in his mission to win her back. He grinds his teeth in frustration, realizing he needs to find a way to secure Nikki's shares in the company. Zayden tries to play the hero, claiming he is only worried about her safety at the estate. Nikki breaks free from his hold, her eyes flashing with anger. She calls him out for trying to manipulate her just to get his hands on her inheritance. Nikki makes it clear that she can tell exactly who is good and who is bad. She declares that she is done being a doormat and will never fall for his lies again. Zayden watches her with a cold, unreadable expression as she stands her ground. He turns to leave, telling her that she will eventually understand his side of things. Nikki stands alone, her body trembling from the intensity of the confrontation. She reaches for her phone sitting on the windowsill to call for support. Her expression softens instantly as she invites Benjamin to join her for the family luncheon. On the other side of the call, Benjamin is busy meeting with influential elders in a formal office. He smiles while checking his phone, promising to see Nikki for dinner later that night. One of the elders places his glass down on the table, shifting the focus back to their business. The elder mentions that a woman named Amali has returned and wants Benjamin to meet with her. He wears a calculated smirk, clearly planning something that could complicate things for the couple. The lead elder adjusts his gold ring as he prepares to make a major announcement. In a formal meeting room, the family gathers to hear the sudden news. With a confident smile, the elder declares that Benjamin will be taking over as the new CEO of Motion Hive. The other relatives look on in absolute shock and outrage at the unexpected appointment. Benjamin stands calmly, remaining unfazed by the sudden tension in the room. He offers a subtle smirk, knowing he holds all the cards in this power struggle. One of the elders slams his hand on the table in a fit of rage. Uncle Leroy stands up to protest, arguing that Benjamin is unfit for the role since he only recently returned home. Benjamin looks at the group and coolly asks who among them actually has the qualifications to lead. He reminds Uncle Leroy that his previous poor business decisions caused the company's profits to plummet by 10%. Turning to Uncle Hector, Benjamin reveals he knows all about the major client Hector offended and how Benjamin was the one who fixed the relationship. Benjamin snaps his fingers, noting he is also well aware of Preston's recent legal scandals and how he personally assisted those affected to protect the family name. An assistant enters the room to confirm that Benjamin has already successfully signed a massive joint venture deal with Silverking. Mr. Jacek is stunned, having failed to secure that exact same deal despite his best efforts. Benjamin leans back on the sofa, reminding everyone of his background as a highly skilled programmer. He explains that his technical expertise allows him to be far better informed than any of his competitors. With a sharp look, he notes that information is the key to defeating anyone who stands in his way. Eugene tries to call it a bluff. The other elders look increasingly nervous. Benjamin immediately shuts down the opposition by asking Eugene if he plans to tell the family he is about to lose half his assets in a messy divorce. He calmly explains that he doesn't just find information. He has the power to control who sees it. A close-up reveals his intense, calculating gaze as he asserts his dominance. The entire room falls into a stunned, heavy silence as the elders realize they are completely outmatched. The lead elder clasps his hands and calls for an end to the bickering. He stands up and tells Benjamin to follow him for a private discussion. Benjamin watches him go with a cold, steady expression. The scene shifts to a large family dinner where the relatives have gathered to welcome Nikki home. An elder encourages Zayden to stand and offer a toast to his daughter. Zayden stands up with a glass of wine, putting on a fake smile as he welcomes Nikki back to the family fold. Nikki stares back with a stony, unimpressed expression while holding her chopsticks. Her face tightens as she listens to the family's manipulative suggestions that she move back into the estate. Nikki puts her chopsticks down and bluntly states that she doesn't feel welcome in a house full of people who only want her inheritance. She flashes a mocking, sweet smile while pointing out that some family members refuse to even sit at the same table as her. Looking around the room, Nikki declares that while they might be family, her father certainly isn't part of her life anymore. Charmaine looks offended and scolds Nikki for saying such an awful thing. Nikki stares ahead with a hollow gaze, unmoved by the attempt to guilt-trip her. She reminds the table that her father lost any right to her respect when he abandoned her and her mother years ago. Nikki stands up to leave, claiming she is feeling unwell and has had enough of the toxic atmosphere. As she walks away, an elder tells her that she is expected to support the family through their current financial difficulties. His expression turns cold as he tells her she is free to go whenever she likes. Zedin looks on with a concerned and watchful eye. Nikki freezes in total shock when the elder demands she return everything that doesn't belong to her before she leaves the estate. Nikki smiles while dismissing the family's supposed financial crisis, claiming she has no part in the company's operations anyway. An elder relative attempts to guilt-trip Nikki, insisting she return her shares to help the struggling business. Nikki surprisingly agrees to the request, telling Uncle Simon to include her in the next shareholder meeting. Simon is visibly shocked by Nikki's sudden interest in company politics. Nikki clarifies that she holds 10% of the shares, giving her more power than anyone else at the table. She calmly asserts her status as a majority shareholder and rightful owner within the family legacy. This revelation leaves Uncle Simon fuming with rage. Nikki faces her aunt directly, maintaining her stance on the matter. She brushes her hair back, declaring she will protect the gift her grandfather gave her at all costs. The elders are left speechless by her bold defiance. Simon tries to laugh it off, questioning if she actually thinks she can influence business decisions. Nikki mockingly suggests that Simon is the one who needs help since his debt is ruining the company. She points out that his massive financial failures have dragged their reputation into the gutter. Simon's hand trembles as he grips his glass, unable to contain his anger. He stares at her with intense hostility, feeling cornered by the truth. Outraged, he shouts at Nikki for her disrespect. Nikki remains completely unfazed as Simon reacts violently to her accusations. The dining room is thrown into chaos until Maya West suddenly enters the room. Nikki is relieved to see that backup has finally arrived. Maya walks in cheerfully, greeting Nikki and inviting her grandfather for a visit. Maya completely ignores the angry elders, while focusing all her attention on Nikki. A bright idea strikes Nikki as she looks for a way to exit the hostile dinner. She explains to Maya that her grandfather is currently unwell and unable to travel. Seizing the moment, Nikki grabs her things to make a quick getaway with her friend. The two women prepare to leave the estate together, much to the family's frustration. Nikki waves a cheerful goodbye, reminding Uncle Simon not to forget her invitation to the meeting. The elders are left in a state of complete bewilderment as their plan falls apart. Nikki later reflects on the situation, feeling a bit overwhelmed by the pressure from Ben. Maya offers her a cute animal-themed charm to help her relax. The two friends settle into the large living room to discuss the day's events. Nikki is touched to learn that Ben actually sent Maya to ensure she wasn't alone with her family. Maya looks around the empty space and suggests that Nikki should decorate with some wedding photos. She is shocked to discover that Nikki and Ben never actually had a formal wedding ceremony. While sitting on the sofa, Maya notices something stuck in the cushions. She pulls out a small keepsake box and asks if it belongs to Nikki. Nikki opens the container to find a missing charm, realizing it doesn't belong to her. She stares at the mysterious item, wondering who could have left it in their home. Nikki and Maya sit on the sofa, discussing the mysterious keepsake box they discovered earlier. Excited by the idea of reliving old memories, Maya suggests they go look at wedding dresses today. The duo arrives at the wedding atelier, a bright and upscale shop filled with elegant gowns. Rows of sparkly and intricate dresses are on display, catching the eyes of everyone in the room. Maya encourages a hesitant Nikki to step forward and try on the beautiful dresses she sees. Nikki worries about the high prices, but her friend is determined to make her feel like a bride. Maya gets a mischievous look in her eyes and checks her phone to coordinate a surprise. She calls Ben to let him know their location and invites him to see Nikki in a dress. Without giving Nikki a chance to object, Maya playfully pushes her toward the dressing room. Ben arrives at the atelier and finds Maya waiting for Nikki to finish her transformation. As he waits, Ben recalls a harsh conversation where he was told Nikki wasn't fit to be his wife. A flashback shows Ben being pressured by a stern elder to reconsider his marriage for the sake of the company. The elder hands over a formal document, demanding that Ben divorce Nikki immediately. Back in the present, Ben hears the rustle of fabric as Nikki prepares to step out of the dressing room. Ben waits with a calm but focused expression, eager to see his wife's reveal. Nikki steps out into the light, her long white gown trailing elegantly on the floor. Ben is completely mesmerized, his eyes sparkling as he takes in Nikki's stunning appearance. Maya is overjoyed by the sight, cheering at how perfect the couple looks together. She showers Nikki with compliments, telling her she looks absolutely gorgeous in the gown. Nikki blushes while glancing at Ben, wondering if he is as impressed as Maya is. Ben walks toward Nikki in the center of the shop, focused entirely on his wife. He pulls out a delicate pearl necklace that belonged to his mother to give to Nikki. Ben gently holds the necklace against her, explaining it is a special gift from his late mother. He places his hands on her shoulders, admiring how the jewelry completes her bridal look. Nikki smiles softly, feeling deeply touched by the sentimental value of the family heirloom. Maya notices the necklace doesn't quite match the dress neckline and calls for a staff member's help. When asked about taking wedding photos later, Ben shakes his head, surprising Nikki. Nikki assumes the photos aren't necessary since they are already legally married anyway. Ben playfully pats Nikki on the head, signaling that he has a much better plan in mind. Ben promises Nikki that they will find the perfect dream dress for their actual wedding photos. The couple shares a sweet, heart-filled moment while Maya watches them with a big smile. A shop assistant approaches the group to announce they have picked out more dresses to try. Nikki follows the assistant to see the new options while Ben and Maya remain behind. The curtain to the dressing area rustles as Nikki goes back inside to change. With Nikki out of earshot, Maya's expression turns serious as she addresses Ben directly. Maya reveals that she knows Ben's true identity because Christian told her everything. Maya reveals that she knows Ben's true identity, having learned the truth from Christian. Ben reacts with a stoic expression, processing the fact that his secret has been compromised. He immediately asks if Nikki is aware of his hidden status. Maya confirms that she hasn't told her yet, but wonders if Nikki has overheard anything. Ben instructs Maya to keep the information to herself for the time being. Maya admits that if they had just started dating, she would have assumed he was after Nikki's stake in Libov Navigations. She notes that Ben returned 3 years ago, before settling down in Blashir. Ben realizes that Maya has done extensive research on his past. Maya demands to know why Ben married Nikki despite having a family-arranged fiancé. Ben coldly states that as the new CEO of Motion Hive, he makes his own decisions about his personal life. Maya threatens him, stating she will take action if he ever hurts Nikki. She remains defiant, standing her ground against the powerful CEO. Ben reassures her that he has no intention of ever leaving Nikki. Nikki eventually interrupts the tense conversation, sensing the heavy atmosphere and suggesting they leave the dress shop. As the sun sets, the group walks through an outdoor plaza together. Nikki questions Maya about her relationship with Christian, looking confused by the situation. Maya brushes off the topic, claiming she is exhausted and just wants a good meal. She gets excited when Nikki offers to make beef stew for dinner. Maya's mood sours when she realizes Christian is also invited to the meal. She insists that if Christian is coming, he must provide high-end beverages from his own collection. Ben makes the call to invite his friend while Maya continues to complain in the background. Later that night, the scene shifts to a high-rise luxury apartment building. In the kitchen, Ben and Christian work together to prepare the ingredients for dinner. Christian looks preoccupied as he handles the vegetables. Ben stops what he's doing when Christian suddenly mentions he might be getting engaged soon. Ben is visibly shocked by the sudden announcement. Christian clarifies that the potential engagement would be to a member of the Libov family. During dinner, Several bottles of beverages are lined up on the table. Maya begins drinking heavily while Nikki watches her with a concerned expression. Christian attempts to intervene and take the bottle away from her. A blushing Maya lashes out, telling him not to touch her. Christian grows frustrated with her behavior as the night progresses. Eventually, Christian decides it is time to take the intoxicated Maya home. He carries her out of the room while Nikki looks on, worried for her friend. Christian heads for the exit, noting that his driver is already waiting outside. Nikki starts to follow them, but she is suddenly stopped. Ben grabs Nikki's wrist to prevent her from interfering. Nikki looks back at him, startled by his sudden move. Ben pulls her back toward him, shaking his head slightly. He tells her to leave the pair alone so they can handle their own business. Nikki and Ben sit down for a meal, but Nikki can't help but worry about their friend's recent behavior. Ben drops a bombshell, revealing that Christian might be entering an arranged engagement very soon. The news leaves Nikki completely stunned and speechless. Nikki immediately jumps up to demand more details about what Ben has heard regarding Christian's future. Ben explains that in elite circles, marriage is often treated as a calculated political alliance, rather than a personal choice. Nikki looks visibly upset, questioning if social standing is the only thing that matters in these powerful families. Ben maintains a serious expression as he outlines the harsh realities of their social class. Nikki finally understands why Maya has been acting so downcast lately. She reflects on Maya's behavior and realizes her friend has likely known about the situation for a while. Nikki looks on with a determined gaze as she processes this new information. She asks Ben if he would have still chosen to be with her if he faced similar family pressures. Ben looks at her intently while preparing to give his answer. He gives a firm confirmation, making it clear that his loyalty to Nikki remains unchanged. Nikki points out the contradiction, as Ben previously mentioned that love is a luxury people in their position often can't afford. Ben leans in close to reassure her that neither he nor Christian will be easily manipulated by their families. He gives her a serious warning to stay safe and ignore any unexpected visitors or packages at the house. 2 days later, the doorbell rings at Nikki's home, interrupting her quiet afternoon. Nikki checks the security camera and finds a very disheveled Maya standing at the door. Upon opening the door, it's clear that Maya is in a state of total disarray. Maya stumbles into the living room and collapses onto the furniture, looking exhausted. With a dazed look, Maya reveals the shocking news of her recent encounter with Christian. Nikki is left completely wide-eyed and shocked by the sudden revelation. Maya suddenly stands up with renewed energy, declaring her intent to focus entirely on her independence. She grabs Nikki's hands and proposes that they start a new professional venture in the fashion industry. Nikki is taken aback by the sudden career pivot, but seems open to the idea. Maya insists that they move to Rodbus to work at the Lion Cloud headquarters together. The two friends celebrate their new plan with excitement, ready to take on a fresh start. Nikki heads off to get ready while Maya waits, though her expression remains troubled. A mysterious man reflects on the secret engagement Ben's grandfather has arranged with a woman named Emily Rose. Maya looks conflicted, wondering if she should tell Nikki the truth about Ben's family secrets. The scene shifts to the towering Lion Cloud headquarters, located in the heart of Rodbus. The duo arrives at the office, dressed and ready to pitch their new womenswear line. They walk into the creative director's office to find a surprising figure waiting for them. Nikki is stunned to see Chase Hamilton sitting in the executive chair, questioning his presence at the company. Nicolette and Maya sit across from Chase Hamilton to discuss business in his office. Chase reveals that he has taken on the role of creative director at Lion Cloud. Nikki clarifies that she's currently on leave and is only there to accompany Maya. Recognizing her talent, Chase offers to pay her double if she agrees to work for him during her vacation. A small mascot appears as Nikki weighs the pros and cons of a lucrative offer. She takes a moment of silence to process the sudden career opportunity. With a smile, Nikki tells Chase he's incredibly persuasive and would make an excellent lobbyist. Chase takes the compliment as a sign of interest and asks if she's officially on board. He is thrilled by the prospect of building a new department and suggests a celebratory dinner. The scene shifts to the Imperial Heaven restaurant, glowing under the night sky. Inside the ornate dining hall, the group gathers around a large table for their meal. Feeling a bit overwhelmed by the heat, Nikki excuses herself to find the restroom. She splashes water on her face to cool down and collect her thoughts. While standing at the sink, a mysterious woman approaches her from behind. The stranger calls out Nikki's full name, causing her to turn around in surprise. A blonde woman stands there, looking Nikki over with an air of intense curiosity. Nikki politely asks the stranger if they have met before. The woman smiles and identifies Nikki as Benjamin's wife. Nikki instinctively tries to back away as the stranger steps directly into her personal space. The woman corners Nikki against the counter in a very assertive manner. Nikki looks on with wide eyes, completely stunned by the woman's boldness. The stranger looms over her, remarking that she looks much better in person. Using a finger to lift Nikki's chin, the woman examines her facial features closely. She maintains the close contact while making a provocative comment about Nikki's appearance. appearance. The blonde woman wears a smug grin as she keeps a flustered Nikki trapped in place. Nikki's discomfort grows as she realizes this encounter is far from friendly. She finally pushes the woman away and demands to know her identity and intentions. The woman casually introduces herself as Emily Rose, Benjamin's fiancé. Nikki is shocked and argues that there must be a misunderstanding regarding her husband. Emily stands firm, suggesting that Benjamin has been hiding the truth of their arrangement. With a wink and a wave, Emily turns to leave the restroom. Nikki is left standing alone, trying to make sense of the bombshell that was just dropped. She returns to the dining table where Maya is ready to celebrate with drinks. Nikki looks pale as she tells Maya about the strange woman who mentioned Ben. Inside Nikki's bag, her phone begins to vibrate with an incoming call. The phone continues to ring near the entrance of the ethereal garden room. On the other end, Ben looks worried as he wonders why his wife isn't answering. After learning their location, Ben tells the person on the line that he'll head over immediately. It turns out Ben is already at the restaurant and tells Emily it's time for her to go. Emily calmly stirs her drink, noting how Nikki's face lost all color during their chat. Ben realizes Emily has already confronted Nikki and quickly puts on his jacket to leave. Emily takes a satisfied sip of her tea, pleased with the friction she has created. A devilish version of Emily appears, highlighting her joy in anticipating Nikki's reaction to the secret. Benjamin rushes through the hallway, his footsteps echoing as he nears the dining area. He arrives at the private room where the group is gathered around the dinner table. Maya looks back with a startled expression as she notices his sudden arrival. Benjamin stands at the doorway, his presence immediately shifting the atmosphere of the room. He approaches Nicolette and places a hand on her shoulder, apologizing for any delay. Nicolette remains silent, her eyes filled with doubt as she considers the claims made by Molly. She stands up to gather her things, signaling that she is ready to end the evening. As Benjamin moves to leave, Maya stops him by grabbing his arm. Maya pulls out a large brown envelope and insists that he take it. She tells him to hand the documents over to Nicolette, leaving Benjamin puzzled. His gaze turns sharp as he begins to examine the papers inside. The document is revealed to be a formal divorce agreement. Benjamin demands to know who provided her with these legal papers. Maya reacts with frustration, her expression showing her internal conflict. She reminds him of his previous promises regarding the stability of his relationship. Without hesitation, Benjamin rips the document into pieces and tells Maya to stay out of his business. He walks away, leaving Maya standing alone as he decides to handle the situation himself. Benjamin discards the shredded remains of the agreement into a nearby bin. He remains focused on his long-term goals despite the current complications. He vows that when the time is right, everyone will know the truth about his commitment to Nicolette. Maya watches him go, her expression a mix of admiration and worry. She wishes that Christian possessed the same level of assertiveness as Benjamin. Benjamin stops to speak with her one last time before they depart. He defends Christian, explaining that his friend is doing his best and needs more patience. Maya listens intently, surprised by his perspective on the matter. She catches up with Nicolette and hands her a coat, dismissing their conversation as mere small talk. The group finally leaves the building and heads toward the parking lot in the cool night air. Benjamin reaches out to hold Nicolette's hand as they walk together. Nicolette walks in silence, her mind still preoccupied with the day's revelations. Later that night, the lights remain on in their apartment as the moon hangs in the sky. Benjamin starts to change out of his formal attire, asking Nicolette why she seems so distant. He reaches for his loungewear while waiting for her response. Nicolette mentions her upcoming work schedule at Lion Cloud, using it as a reason for her exhaustion. Benjamin reaches out toward her, sensing the emotional gap between them. He moves closer, attempting to comfort her as they sit on the bed. Nicolette gently pushes him away, stating that she is too tired to talk tonight. She turns her back to him and prepares to sleep, clearly overwhelmed by her thoughts. Staring into the distance, she worries about her career and the uncertain future ahead. Benjamin sits beside her, looking at her with a concerned and somber expression. He feels the weight of the secrets between them and wonders how they will move forward. The night ends with the two of them lying in bed, physically close but emotionally miles apart. The sun rises over the mountains, marking the start of a difficult new day for the couple. Benjamin prepares to leave early, informing a distant Nicolette that he will be home late due to urgent business. Nicolette remains huddled under the covers, her mind racing with suspicion about whether he is meeting the other woman again. Benjamin looks weary as he offers to make breakfast, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy despite the emotional rift. He stands by the mirror while she stays in bed, the silence between them highlighting the growing distance in their relationship. Frustration boils over as Nicolette thrashes around, annoyed that Benjamin refuses to be transparent with her. She burrows deep into the blankets, attempting to hide from the painful reality of her situation. Her expression is clouded with sorrow as she questions why he won't just tell her the truth. Realizing she can't stay in bed forever, she decides to focus entirely on her work to escape her troubling thoughts. She clutches her head, desperately trying to push the drama to the back of her mind before heading out. The scene shifts to the sleek and modern Lion Cloud headquarters, where business is moving fast. An assistant rushes toward Nicolette's desk with a folder, excited to reveal the brand's new womenswear ambassador. Nicolette is taken aback when she sees the name of the high-profile celebrity selected for the campaign. Reviewing the portfolio, Nicolette immediately voices her professional concerns regarding the choice. She explains that an endorser's public persona must must perfectly align with the brand's core identity to be effective. Nicolette points out that while the celebrity is chic, her image clashes with the company's vintage-inspired collection. The assistant notes that the star is already in a meeting room, ready to sign the endorsement agreement. Inside the room, the celebrity acts like a total diva, complaining about the prospect of attending future fittings. Nicolette listens from the hallway, realizing the ambassador will be incredibly difficult to manage. She peeks through the door, observing the arrogant behavior of the star firsthand. An employee is startled when Nicolette suddenly appears, ready to intervene in the signing. He quickly leads her into the office, noting that her input as a designer is exactly what they need. The celebrity looks on with annoyance, demanding to know who has just interrupted her meeting. The atmosphere becomes incredibly tense as Nicolette stands her ground in the center of the room. The manager introduces Nicolette as the lead fashion designer for the women's wear team. The celebrity smirks patronizingly, asking if the final decision actually rests on Nicolette's opinion. Nicolette feels the weight of the moment, but remains focused on the integrity of the brand. The manager gives her a supportive nod, encouraging her to speak her mind without holding anything back. Nicolette looks the star in the eye and bluntly states that she is not the right fit for the brand's image. The celebrity's face contorts with rage at being rejected so publicly. The manager calmly backs Nicolette, stating it is a shame the partnership won't proceed. Outraged, the celebrity stands up and reminds them that she only agreed to work with them because of the Lane family's ownership. She points a finger at Nicolette, demanding she be fired on the spot to save the deal. Nicolette stares back blankly, refusing to be intimidated by the star's desperate power play. The manager remains completely unmoved, listening to the demands with a bored and detached expression. Nicolette is stunned by the celebrity's lack of professionalism and extreme reaction. The star continues to shout at the manager, unable to process that her demands are being ignored. The manager's eyes turn cold as he tells her she is clearly failing to understand the situation. He reiterates that she is simply not the right fit and the company will not be signing her. Standing up to end the meeting, he offers a final dry apology for wasting her time. He orders his assistant to escort the fuming celebrity out of the building immediately. The star storms out in a blind rage, feeling humiliated by the blunt rejection. She vows to use her massive fan base to attack the company online as she leaves the premises. Nicolette leaves the selection of the new brand ambassador to her capable team. She specifically tasks Molly with finding a candidate that embodies a vintage aesthetic. Suddenly, a colleague urges Nikki to check social media for urgent news. A high-profile celebrity is trending for publicly attacking the brand's reputation. The team gathers around the monitor, stunned by the celebrity's petty online behavior. Christian decides to involve the higher-ups to handle the escalating PR crisis. He remains calm, knowing exactly how to handle such an ignorant move. With a confident smirk, he prepares to launch a counter-strategy. Only a few hours later, every single negative post has been scrubbed from the internet. The team is relieved and impressed by the lightning-fast efficiency of the PR department. Nikki spots a new notification on her screen that catches her attention. Her face lights up as she realizes they have found their perfect representative. The new ambassador is revealed, perfectly capturing the elegant look Nikki envisioned. Across town, Benjamin is busy working in his study when someone knocks. His assistant confirms that all the slanderous comments against Nikki have been deleted. Ben dismisses the staff, wanting to focus on his own private concerns. He stares at his phone, frustrated that he hasn't received any word from his wife. He worries that her silence means she is still upset about the previous night. Gripping his device, he wonders if his wife's trust in him has been shaken by recent rumors. Ben paces his office, questioning what exactly she was told by their rival. Feeling like he is trapped in a difficult situation, he lets out a heavy sigh. He decides it's time to head home and address the tension directly. Standing by his desk, he resolves to give Nikki the explanation she deserves. Darkness settles over the city as the lights of the apartment complex flicker on. Ben steps into the quiet residence, feeling a wave of apprehension. He reaches for the door handle, mentally rehearsing his first words to her. He finds Nikki passed out on the coffee table, surrounded by her work papers. Ben stands over her, his expression softening with a mix of worry and relief. Nikki is deep in sleep after a long day of designing and dealing with office drama. Ben watches her for a moment, clearly exhausted by the weight of their current situation. He moves quietly across the floor to avoid waking her up. Very carefully, he reaches out to slide from her resting hand. Nikki's eyes flutter open as she catches a glimpse of her husband. The two share a startled moment as they realize how late it has actually become. A very groggy Nikki leans against Ben, still trying to wake up. Ben realizes that she isn't actually holding a grudge against him. He gently lifts her up, deciding it's time for her to move to a real bed. He carries his wife through the living room, making sure she is comfortable. Nikki mumbles a sleepy comment about her dinner preparations. Ben offers a small smirk, amused by her playful and tired state. He leans in close to her, watching over her as she begins to drift back to sleep. Ben looks on with a soft expression, reflecting on how much his partner has impacted his life during his toughest times. Nikki rests peacefully as the soft morning light fills the room. Ben sits up, resolving to find the right time to show the world how much she truly means to him. He gently takes her hand, silently promising to prove her value to him. Ben closes his eyes, determined to eventually make their relationship known to everyone. He quietly gets out of bed to start his day while Nikki continues to sleep. He gathers his personal items from the nightstand before heading out for his morning routine. Later, Ben arrives home to find a bowl of warm food waiting for him on the counter. He realizes Nikki went through the effort of making him stir-fry noodles and blushes at the thoughtful gesture. The meal is a hearty bowl of noodles topped with shrimp, peas, and fresh tomatoes. While he eats, Ben calls an associate to help him secure a special keepsake from a new jewelry collection. He continues his meal while finalizing the details for the gift. Ben feels completely content and happy as he enjoys the dinner his partner prepared. Over at the Lion Cloud headquarters, the staff discusses the recent decision to drop their previous brand ambassador. Maya questions the move, but Nikki explains that the former influencer simply wasn't a good fit for the brand's image. Nikki notes that the former ambassador is now holding a grudge and trying to stir up trouble online. Maya mentions that the woman was already facing career struggles, making this sudden change even harder for her to handle. Nikki realizes that her professional decision has had a significant impact on the influencer's ego. They look over the portfolio of Naomi Stone, the rising star selected to be the new face of the brand. Maya warns that choosing such a high-profile replacement will likely intensify the feud with the previous ambassador. A week later, Nikki finally finishes her latest design sketches and prepares to send them to the development team. Feeling accomplished, she decides to take some time off to visit her grandfather. She calls Ben to see if he is available to join her for the family visit. Nikki informs Maya that she's heading out and that Ben will be meeting her there shortly. She leaves the office with a bright smile, looking forward to the afternoon. Meanwhile, Ben stands in his office looking at a small box he has prepared as a surprise. The keepsake box sits on the table, waiting for the perfect moment to be presented to Nikki. Ben takes a quiet moment to relax with a cup of tea while he waits. His assistant enters the room to inform him that he has some unexpected visitors waiting downstairs. Ben is surprised to hear that his mother has arrived, accompanied by a woman named Rowena Lawrence. The assistant explains that Rowena claims to be a longtime family friend. It is confirmed that Rowena was the one who brought Ben's mother to the building. Ben's expression becomes serious as he prepares to deal with this unexpected family matter. He and his assistant quickly head toward the lobby to meet the guests. The assistant grows concerned about why a former acquaintance has suddenly reappeared to complicate things. They arrive in the lobby to find a woman waiting for them in a wheelchair. Ben stops for a moment to compose himself before approaching. He maintains a neutral expression as he walks toward the visitor. Ben calls out to his mother as he nears her across the wide lobby floor. His mother looks up, her face showing signs of weariness. She turns her head to see her son as he finally reaches her side. Overcome with emotion, she tearfully greets Ben, happy to see him again. Ben kneels beside his mother's wheelchair, deeply moved as she finally recognizes him after a long recovery. She reaches out to touch his face, confirming that her memory and awareness have returned. With a gentle smile, she reassures him that she knows exactly who he is. Ben holds her hand, grateful for the progress, while Rowena stands nearby watching the emotional reunion. The mother turns her attention to Rowena, praising her for being such a sweet and helpful companion during her treatment. Rowena accepts the compliment with a humble smile, noting that the doctors have officially declared the mother cured. She shifts slightly, her stylish heels clicking on the marble floor as she maintains her poised appearance. Rowena expresses her hope that this surprise visit has made Ben's day special. Ben, however, looks away with a distant and unreadable expression, seemingly less than thrilled by the timing of this arrival. He remains silent for a moment, his face a mask of stoic indifference as he processes the situation. Eventually, he decides it's time to head home and begins pushing his mother's wheelchair through the lobby. His mother stops him, wondering if Rowena will be joining them at the house. Ben firmly states that Rowena is busy and won't be coming along, wanting to keep the family time private. He ignores Rowena's presence behind him and checks his phone, focused on reaching out to Nikki. This dismissal clearly irks Rowena, who struggles to maintain her composure in the background. She quickly pivots to a more vulnerable act, looking downcast to gain sympathy. While Ben tries to call Nikki to explain the situation, he remains preoccupied with his phone. Sensing the tension, the mother suddenly grabs Rowena's hand to prevent her from leaving. She breaks into a loud protest, insisting that she only wants Rowena around her and refuses to go without her. Ben looks stressed by his mother's sudden outburst, feeling forced to change his plans. Rowena watches the scene with a feigned look of concern, waiting for Ben to cave to his mother's demands. Left with no other choice, Ben allows Rowena to join them and even lets her help with the wheelchair. As Rowena takes over the handle, Ben's hand is moved aside, signaling her successful insertion into their evening. She looks down with a quiet sense of satisfaction, knowing she has secured her spot. Rowena maintains a calm, innocent facade as they prepare to depart. The group makes their way out of the building toward the waiting vehicle. One of the staff members watches them go with a suspicious and uneasy look, sensing the brewing conflict. They soon arrive at the grand mansion, where the atmosphere remains thick with unspoken tension. Inside the spacious living room, Ben heads toward the kitchen while his mother and Rowena settle onto the couch. Rowena watches him go, her mind likely racing racing with her next move. She continues her conversation with the mother, acting as the perfect, attentive friend. The mother is completely charmed, looking at Rowena with genuine affection as Rowena plays up her modest persona. The mother smiles warmly, clearly convinced that Rowena is the ideal companion for her son. She reaches over to pat Rowena's hand, offering her support and encouragement. Meanwhile, Ben's phone sits on the coffee table, vibrating as an incoming call arrives. Rowena notices the device and sees that Nikki is trying to get through. Across town, Nikki is in the back of a speeding cab, eager to meet up with Ben after his earlier missed calls. She finally gets through and starts to speak, expecting to hear Ben's voice on the other end. Her expression instantly shifts to one of pure shock when a woman's voice answers instead. Nikki sits frozen in the car, confused and hurt as the person on the other end abruptly ends the call. She stares at her phone in disbelief as the screen displays the call-ended notification. Back at the mansion, Rowena holds Ben's phone with a cold, triumphant stare, having successfully intercepted the call. Ben steps into the room and catches Rowena holding his phone after she intercepted a call. He demands to know why she's touching his personal device, while she sits there looking caught. Rowena quickly puts on an act, claiming it was a wrong number, and she only answered out of concern for an emergency. The tension rises in the living room as Ben's mother questions his attitude, wondering if he's unhappy that she's finally home. Ben's eyes narrow as he realizes the difficult situation his mother's return has created. He looks away, clearly stressed by the manipulation unfolding right in front of him. Ben stands firm, explaining that things have changed significantly during his mother's absence. His fist clenches at his side as he struggles to maintain his composure against Rowena's interference. Rowena continues her performance, holding the older woman's hands to appear as the perfect, caring companion. Ben watches with a pained expression, knowing he has to tell the truth regardless of the fallout. He stands before them and bluntly states that he and Rowena broke up years ago. He then reveals the ultimate truth, stating he has been married to someone else for over a year now. Ben's mother reacts with an explosive outburst, refusing to accept any woman other than Rowena as his wife. Ben stares in shock, worried that the stress of the argument is affecting his mother's health. Rowena immediately moves to comfort the distressed woman, making herself look indispensable in the process. Ben watches the scene unfold, wondering if his mother is genuinely relapsing or if she's being led on. He decides to hold his tongue for the moment, seeing how much his mother trusts Rowena's every move. Across town, Nikki arrives at her family's estate and is greeted by a woman who updates her on her grandfather's condition. Nikki listens carefully as she's told the elderly man has even started speaking again. She watches as her grandfather is brought into the room in a wheelchair by a nurse. Nikki's face lights up with a warm smile the moment she sees him. The grandfather smiles back, clearly happy to have his granddaughter by his side again. Nikki kneels down to hold his hands, showing her deep affection for her recovering relative. Nikki decides to call Ben, wondering why he hasn't shown up for the dinner they planned. Her expression turns suspicious as she worries if he's been distracted by Rowena again. Ben finally answers, explaining that his mother returned unexpectedly, and he's stuck dealing with the situation. Nikki looks uneasy, still wondering about the mystery woman who answered his phone earlier that day. Ben promises to explain everything once he returns home, though the distance between them is palpable. Nikki remains by her grandfather's side while the other woman watches them with a calculating gaze. The woman then mentions Eleanor's upcoming engagement party, insisting that Nikki must be there to show support. She wears a smug, knowing smile that suggests she has a hidden agenda for the event. After delivering her message, the woman walks away, leaving Nikki to her thoughts. Back at the mansion, Ben prepares to head out, telling his mother he's finished setting things up for her. He explains that his current residence isn't ideal for her recovery, which is why he's placed her in this quiet location. Rowena plays along, offering to head home as well since the hour is getting late. Ben's mother tries to force them together, insisting that Ben should be the one to drive Rowena home. Ben looks completely annoyed, seeing through the obvious attempt at a setup. As Ben walks out, Rowena runs after him, calling for him to wait up. Ben ignores her completely, walking straight toward his waiting car and driver. Before Rowena can reach him, the driver steps in her way, politely offering her a separate vehicle. Ben sits in the back of his car, refusing to even look in Rowena's direction as he prepares to leave. Rowena's eyes flash with a sudden, intense anger at being brushed aside so easily. Her face twists in a silent, furious rage as she realizes her plan to corner Ben has failed. It's late at night when a text message arrives at the apartment building as Ben apologizes for his late return. Ben walks through the front door to find Nikki waiting for him in the living room. Nikki immediately greets him with a hug, anxious to know what his mother said about her. A flashback reveals the harsh truth, showing Ben's mother in a state of shock, refusing to accept anyone but Rowena as his wife. Ben keeps the rejection a secret for now, holding Nikki close with a troubled expression. Nikki looks up at him, admitting she's incredibly nervous about meeting his mother so suddenly. Ben reassures her that his mother just needs rest and he'll introduce them when the time is right. Nikki's suspicion lingers as she asks about the woman she heard on the phone earlier. Ben pulls away from the embrace, creating a bit of distance between them. He dismisses the tension by loosening his tie and heading off for a shower. Nikki watches him go, certain that he is hiding something important from her. Under the spray of the shower, Ben realizes he needs to take control of the situation before things spiral out of hand. Nikki decides to handle her own business, choosing to attend Eleanor's engagement party alone to avoid adding more stress to Ben's plate. The scene shifts to a high-end office where corporate business is in full swing. Ben meets with his assistant, Eva, to coordinate a car for Nikki later that evening. Eva is surprised, mentioning she expected Nikki to be at Eleanor's big engagement party tonight. Ben is caught off guard by the news, realizing Nikki never mentioned the event to him. Eva notes his surprise, realizing she just spilled a secret Nikki was keeping. Taking immediate action, Ben orders Eva to prepare a stunning dress and accessories for Nikki to wear. He stares out the window, wondering why his wife didn't tell him about her plans. Meanwhile, a delivery is made to a modern office complex during the workday. A courier arrives at Nikki's workplace, asking her to sign for a mysterious package. Nikki and her coworker open the box to find a breathtaking designer gown inside. Nikki is stunned, questioning how Ben found out about the party and managed to send such a gift. Despite her initial plan to go alone, she feels a sense of relief and gratitude for his support. That evening, the elite gather at the massive Lebov house mansion for the celebration. Nikki makes a grand entrance, pushing her grandfather's wheelchair into the crowded ballroom. She looks radiant in her blue dress, keeping a calm and confident smile despite the onlookers. Grandpa looks around the room, mentioning he has something important to say to Ben. Nikki gently explains that Ben is preoccupied caring for his mother right now. Her companion chimes in, making sure Grandpa knows that Ben was the one who provided the beautiful dress. Suddenly, Uncle Derek appears and calls out to his father among the guests. Derek tries to lead Nikki away, claiming he wants to introduce her to the company's board members. Nikki is immediately wary, remembering that Derek used a family heirloom to pay off his gambling debts. Grandpa encourages her to go, telling her she needs to start networking with upper management. Trusting her grandfather's advice, Nikki agrees to follow her uncle. Derek leads her through the mansion, moving away from the main festivities. They encounter a group of men drinking and disrespectfully joking about Grandpa being on his deathbed. Nikki's temper flares as she tells the men to watch their mouths and show some respect. She stands her ground, confronting the group with an intense and fearless gaze. Derek grabs her arm, warning her that she's talking to Mr. Edgerton, the second largest shareholder. Nikki realizes this is the man who has been trying to orchestrate a hostile buyout of their company. Mr. Edgerton smirks, holding his drink and looking Nikki over with a condescending attitude. He reaches out toward her, dismissive of her anger. The drunk shareholder grabs Nikki by the chin, insulting her with backhanded compliments about her looks. Suddenly, Ben arrives on the scene, coldly ordering Eva to sober the man up. A hand swings through the air with incredible speed and force. A loud slap echoes as Edgerton is struck across the face for his behavior. The entire room goes silent as Ben stands tall, ready to defend his wife from the disrespectful crowd. Ben arrives at the scene looking calm and composed as he faces the situation. Nikki looks up in surprise and relief to see him standing there. The two stand in the middle of the ballroom, while the other guests watch the confrontation unfold. Ben gives a confident smirk, clearly unfazed by the surrounding chaos. Edgerton points an accusing finger, shouting about the assault he claims to have endured. Ben stands firmly by Nikki and informs the man that he is no longer welcome at the party. Edgerton continues his outburst, aggressively gesturing as he loses his temper. Grandpa Tate steps in and identifies Ben as the grandson of the legendary Wallace Jacek. Ben is momentarily stunned to see the elderly man present at the event. The security team moves in to escort the disruptive Edgerton out of the building. Grandpa Tate mentions he has heard the news regarding the leadership change at Motion Hive. He then requests a private moment to speak with Ben away from the crowd. The surrounding guests begin to whisper about Ben's high-profile family connections. Ben remains focused and determined as he prepares for the upcoming conversation. He declares his unwavering devotion to Nikki regardless of his social status. The group decides to move to a quieter area to avoid disrupting the engagement party further. Ben reassures Nikki that everything is under control before heading off with her grandfather. A woman named Eva introduces herself to Nikki, acknowledging her connection to the Jacek family. Eva thinks to herself that the moment she has been waiting for has finally arrived. Grandpa Tate recalls a conversation from months ago where he prioritized Nikki's happiness over financial status. He now questions how Ben intends to handle the relationship as the new CEO. Ben listens with a serious and intense gaze, taking the question to heart. A slight smile plays on his lips as he prepares his response. Nikki waits alone in the lounge, feeling the weight of the evening's events. She stares off into the distance, looking troubled by her inner thoughts. A memory of another couple flashes through her mind as she doubts her own future. She is startled out of her thoughts when she notices a familiar figure approaching. Ben waves at her with a warm smile, returning from his talk with Grandpa. Nikki immediately asks what her grandfather wanted to discuss with him. Ben explains that the old man was worried about whether his family would accept her. Nikki pauses, clearly anxious about what the outcome of that conversation was. She looks at him with teary eyes, desperate to know exactly what he said in reply. Ben notices her distress and asks if everything is truly alright with her. Nikki reaches for Ben's hand to steady herself during the emotional conversation. She confesses that she had hoped they would build a home together with his mother. She maintains the contact as she admits that she feels like her dreams were just wishful thinking. Nikki breaks down, fearing that she was never meant to be part of his long-term plan. As she cries, a box opens to reveal a sparkling keepsake intended for her. Ben gazes at her with deep sincerity, clearing up any doubts she might have. He promises her that he absolutely sees a future with her by his side. Ben looks at Nikki with a gentle expression, his eyes filled with sincerity. He drops to one knee and presents a keepsake, asking her to spend the rest of her life by his side. His gaze remains soft as he expresses his deep desire to build a future together. With a steady hand, he slides the precious charm onto her finger to seal his promise. Nikki is visibly moved by the proposal, her hand covering her mouth in surprise. Ben explains that he wants to make up for the times they had nothing in the past. He holds her close and suggests they head home for the evening. Ben flashes a confident smile as they prepare to depart. The couple walks hand in hand toward their luxury vehicle waiting outside. Nikki is amazed by the sleek car as Ben gives final instructions to the staff. She playfully teases him about the possibility of moving into a massive mansion. Ben listens with a small smirk as she continues her lighthearted jokes about his wealth. He looks intrigued by her curiosity regarding his family's estates. Nikki winks playfully while discussing the lifestyle of millionaires. Ben reminds her that his only true home is wherever she happens to be. Later that night, the clock ticks toward 11 as the atmosphere shifts to their apartment. Nikki stays up late working on her laptop to prepare for an upcoming contract. She looks up as Ben approaches, surprised by his sudden appearance. Ben expresses concern that her wet hair might cause her to catch a cold. Nikki continues her work while listening to his gentle scolding. Ben helps dry her hair, while mentioning that his mother called earlier and wants him to drop by. Nikki reacts with surprise at the news of a late-night summons from his family. Ben explains the situation while continuing to assist her with her hair. He notes that his mother is a night owl and likely just wants a quick visit. Nikki offers to go along with him to show her support. Ben declines, suggesting she stay comfortable at home while he handles the quick trip. Nikki mentions she will have more free time once her deal is signed tomorrow. Ben suggests they arrange a formal dinner for everyone the following evening. His expression is focused as he considers the best way to introduce her to his mother. The two share a bright moment of agreement regarding their future plans. A playful chibi version of the couple debates their kitchen skills and meal plans for the upcoming dinner. Nikki blushes as she admits how much she is counting on Ben's support. Ben's eyes sparkle with affection as he listens to her heartfelt confession. He covers his mouth to hide a grin at her adorable sincerity. They share a quiet moment of connection, their hands intertwined. Ben gazes at her with deep devotion, appreciating the bond they share. The couple shares a close look before Ben prepares to head out. Nikki eventually pushes him toward the door, telling him not to keep his mother waiting. A collection of luxury perfumes and cosmetic bottles sits neatly arranged on a vanity. Nikki beams with joy, resting her face in her hands as she admires her new engagement ring. She can't help but marvel at how pretty the jewelry is while thinking about her upcoming workload. Despite the busy new year ahead, she looks forward to moving to Blashier with Ben after the holidays. The clock ticks past midnight, showing it's nearly 1 in the morning. Nikki waits up on the sofa, debating whether she should give Ben a call while he's at his mother's place. She reaches for her phone, wondering if he might already be on his way back. Deciding against the call, she settles in to watch some TV to pass the time. Eventually, her eyes grow heavy as she struggles to stay awake. The next morning, Nikki startles awake on the couch and realizes Ben never made it home. She looks toward the door, filled with concern over his whereabouts. Fear starts to creep in as she wonders if something went wrong during the night. Suddenly, the sound of a ringing phone breaks the silence. She checks the handset and sees an incoming call from an unknown number. Nikki quickly answers, asking who is on the other end. It's Ben, who explains that his mother accidentally broke his phone and he's still with her. Nikki smiles, relieved to hear his voice and know that he's safe. Her expression shifts to confusion when she hears a young woman's voice in the background inviting Ben to breakfast. Feeling a sudden pang of unease, Nikki tells him she's leaving for work and abruptly ends the call. She sets the phone back on its base, her hand trembling slightly from the interaction. Nikki stands alone, troubled by the overly familiar tone the mystery woman used with her fiancé. She tries to shake off the feeling, questioning if she's just overthinking things. Meanwhile, Ben stands outside his mother's estate, looking sternly at a mobile device. Rowena approaches him from behind, carrying a prepared breakfast tray. Ben doesn't mince words, telling her to stop wasting her time and to quit using his mother as a pawn. He firmly grips his car keys, showing he has no intention of staying a moment longer. Rowena watches in frustration as Ben walks away, completely ignoring the meal she prepared. Standing by the window, Rowena watches Ben's car pull away from the mansion. A calculating look crosses her face as she considers the family's refusal to accept her. She remains confident, believing she can dismantle Ben's marriage plans all on her own. The day begins at the modern headquarters building where the team prepares for a high-profile meeting. Nicolette walks through the office with her colleague, eager to meet a celebrity who has arrived ahead of schedule. The two share a lighthearted moment as they head toward the conference room to finalize a new deal. Inside, the sophisticated Naomi Stone waits patiently for the interview interview to begin. Naomi greets the staff with professional grace, making a strong first impression. Nicolette is immediately struck by how down-to-earth and perfect the star is for their brand. Naomi expresses her sincere gratitude for being chosen and promises to deliver her best work. The group sits down together to review the details of the upcoming spring collection. Later, Nicolette returns to her desk to process the contract while keeping a photo of Ben nearby. She leans back in her chair, feeling accomplished after such a successful morning. Her focus remains sharp as she dives back into her paperwork to finish the day's tasks. A sudden notification on her phone catches her attention, signaling an update regarding her evening plans. Nicolette coordinates with her coworker to leave the office early for a family dinner. Despite the good news, a look of concern crosses her face as she contemplates the upcoming meeting with Ben's mother. She hesitates while holding her phone, worried that a certain uninvited guest might disrupt the evening. Her colleague notices her sudden change in mood as she prepares to depart. The sun begins to set over the city as Nicolette arrives back at her residence. She steps out of the elevator carrying bags of groceries, ready to prepare for the night. Nicolette stops abruptly when she notices someone unfamiliar standing in the hallway. She watches as a stylish woman waits confidently near the entrance to her home. Rowena introduces herself with a cold smile, claiming she is there to collect something for Ben. Though confused, Nicolette maintains her composure and invites the woman inside. Rowena immediately begins critiquing the decor, acting if she is intimately familiar with the space. Nicolette bristles when the stranger uses an overly affectionate nickname for her husband. Rowena smugly claims credit for the interior design, asserting that Ben would have never chosen these colors on his own. She watches Nicolette with a calculating gaze, clearly trying to provoke a reaction. Nicolette stands her ground and demands to know the woman's true identity. Rowena casually makes herself at home on the sofa, continuing her psychological power play. With a sharp look, Rowena boldly declares that she is the one Ben truly cares for. She stares down Nicolette, telling her that the family will never accept her. Nicolette refuses to be intimidated and firmly reminds the intruder of her status as Ben's wife. Rowena simply smirks and displays a small keepsake on her hand, claiming Ben's mother sent her to retrieve its match. The tension in the room peaks as Rowena asks for the location of the other charm. Nikki stares back with defiance, questioning why anyone thinks they have the right to tell her to leave her husband. Rowena maintains a smug grin as she prepares to reveal a secret she believes will change everything. She presents a photo of a woman named Amelie Rose, a high-ranking member of an elite family. Rowena explains the history of the families, revealing that Ben was previously engaged to this woman. Nikki's eyes widen in shock as she hears about a past Ben never shared with her. Unfazed, Nikki sweeps the documents off the table, refusing to let the past dictate her present. She asserts her position, stating firmly that Ben chose her regardless of what happened before. Rowena scoffs, clearly finding Nikki's confidence amusingly misplaced. She leans back on the sofa, claiming Ben is merely using Nikki as a way to rebel against his family. Nikki smirks, finding it ironic that an ex-girlfriend is the one giving her relationship advice. She fires back, questioning Rowena's own value if she believes everyone is just a tool. Standing tall, Nikki declares that even if she were to leave, Rowena would still never have a chance with Ben. Rowena stands up, boasting that Ben's mother has already chosen her as the only worthy daughter-in-law. This news hits Nikki hard, making her wonder if this is why Ben has kept her away from his mother. Rowena looms over her, suggesting Nikki should be the one to ask for a divorce to protect Ben's relationship with his parent. Despite the pressure, Nikki remains resolute and refuses to walk away from her marriage. Rowena offers one last condescending smile as she prepares to depart. She leaves Nikki alone in the living room, surrounded by scattered papers and heavy thoughts. A memory of Ben and Rowena together flashes through the air, adding to the tension of the intrusion. Nikki finally snaps, ordering Rowena to get out of her home immediately. Rowena pauses to mention keepsake rings Ben allegedly bought for the two of them in the past. She heads toward the door, advising Nikki to cancel her dinner plans for the evening. Opening the door to leave, Rowena claims that neither Ben nor his mother will be showing up. Nikki stands frozen, her anger boiling over at the blatant disrespect and manipulation. She shouts for Rowena to leave one last time, her voice filled with frustration. Nikki points toward the exit as Rowena walks out with a triumphant smirk. Rowena glances back with a satisfied look, believing she has successfully planted seeds of doubt. The front door slams shut, leaving the apartment in a tense silence. Nikki sits down and immediately reaches for her phone to check on the situation. She calls Ben, trying to keep her voice steady while fighting back tears of betrayal. Ben answers the call, looking distracted and busy at his current location. He explains from his office that his mother won't be coming and that he will be home late. Nikki breaks down in silent tears, pretending everything is fine while telling him she's busy with cooking. She then turns away, heading deeper into the apartment to deal with her emotions in private. The story shifts to a grand estate standing tall under the quiet night sky. Inside a bedroom, Benjamin checks on his mother, while a medical assistant confirms her condition is currently stable. Benjamin remains deeply worried, expressing that he doesn't trust anyone else to handle her delicate care. He leans over his mother's bedside, coordinating a potential transfer to a better medical unit if the current equipment proves insufficient. Suddenly, Rowena bursts into the room, frantically asking if his mother is all right after hearing about an accident. Benjamin meets her with a cold, weary gaze as she tries to explain her concern. He flatly tells her that his mother is fine for the moment, though Rowena remains visibly shaken by the news. As Benjamin keeps watch by the bed, Rowena stands nearby and apologizes for not being there when the incident happened. Benjamin stares ahead stoically, unaffected by her emotional display. He bluntly informs Rowena that while he appreciates her help, it's no longer a good idea for her to stay at the house. His gaze remains firm as he dismisses her claims about his mother being lonely. Without another word, he begins to walk away, signaling that their time together has come to an end. He instructs his assistant to book a high-end hotel for Rowena to ensure she departs immediately. Rowena is left stunned and hurt by the sudden, cold dismissal. Benjamin gives her one last stern look, emphasizing his boundaries and lack of interest. Rowena can only stare back in silence as the reality of his rejection sinks in. Benjamin exits the room with his assistant, leaving a completely devastated Rowena behind. Left alone, Rowena trembles with rage, vowing never to forgive Benjamin or Nicolette for this humiliation. The scene transitions to the city skyline at night as Benjamin finally heads home. Upon entering his house, he calls out for Nikki but finds the rooms dark and quiet. He pauses near the living room, noticing the scent of beverages and realizing that the dinner he expected wasn't prepared. He eventually finds Nikki lying on the floor in a daze, clearly overwhelmed by her emotions. Nikki lashes out in her confused state, telling him to get out of the house before realizing who he is. She looks up at him with tear-filled eyes, her initial anger turning into desperate relief. Clinging to him, she questions why he came home early after his previous message. She buries her face against him, pleading with him never to leave her side. Benjamin is visibly taken aback by her state, asking what could have possibly happened to cause such a breakdown. Nikki cries out, revealing she met his former fiancé and heard Rowena's claims about his mother's wishes. She holds onto him tightly, demanding a promise of total loyalty and commitment. Benjamin looks down at her with a serious and determined expression. He pulls her into a supportive embrace, promising that nothing in the world will ever break them apart. Nikki looks up with a fierce intensity, warning him that she will hold him to his word for the sake of their future. The two remain together on the floor as she continues to vent her insecurities and demands for his everlasting loyalty. The scene opens in a modern living room where a serious discussion about past relationships begins. Ben explains that his previous partner left him after hearing about his forced engagement to Amali. He reflects on the past with a look of quiet vulnerability and regret. Ben acknowledges that his life changed the moment he met Nikki. Nikki seeks clarification on the true nature of the arrangement between Ben and Emily. Ben provides more context regarding Emily's own personal motivations and fears. Nikki reacts with genuine surprise as she learns that Emily actually supports their marriage. An imagined scenario plays out where Nikki's mother aggressively defends the sanctity of their relationship. Ben notes how much the hypothetical threat sounds like something Nikki's mother would actually say. Nikki admits that having this information sooner would have saved her a significant amount of stress. Ben, leaning close, offers a sincere apology, stating he never intended to cause her any emotional distress. Nikki brings up the blue charm that Rowena used to manipulate her feelings. A close-up reveals the blue gemstone charm that has been a source of so much tension. Ben firmly promises that Rowena will no longer be a factor in their lives. He hands a plain silver keepsake to Nikki as a gesture of his commitment. Ben asks her to hold onto the item until he has fully earned back her complete trust. Nikki accepts the silver keepsake with a hopeful and bright expression. She carefully sets the item aside on a nearby surface for safekeeping. Nikki views the gesture as a sincere expression of Ben's dedication to their future. Ben informs Nikki that he must leave for a business trip the following day. He asks her to take care of herself and stay in contact while he is away. A sleek black car speeds down the road as Benjamin heads toward his destination. Inside, his assistant warns him about rival groups targeting his new position as CEO. Benjamin listens intently, realizing the gravity of the danger surrounding his current situation. He immediately orders his team to secure the mansion and keep a close eye on Nikki's safety. The vehicle pulls up to the curb as they arrive at their scheduled stop. Benjamin steps out of the car, prepared for the business at hand. Suddenly, a sharp glint catches his eye, signaling an immediate threat. In an instant, Benjamin is struck and winces in pain while his assistant cries out in shock. He collapses to the ground as security rushes over to provide cover and assistance. Despite his injury, he strictly instructs his team to keep this incident a secret from his family. He emphasizes that Nikki and his mother must not find out about the attack under any circumstances. His assistant helps him stay upright as they move toward safety. Benjamin struggles to maintain consciousness, regretting that he couldn't reach out to Nikki before things took a turn. He falls to the pavement while his staff calls for urgent medical help and pursues the assailant. His assistant stands stunned by the audacity of such a public assault in broad daylight. As Benjamin loses consciousness, his phone begins to vibrate with an incoming call. The assistant answers the device to find a surprising person on the other end. She is shocked to hear Miss Rose's voice during such a critical moment. Meanwhile, Nikki stays busy at home, diligently tidying up her living space. While cleaning, she accidentally knocks a small silver keepsake off the table. She panics for a moment, realizing she's misplaced the important item Ben gave her. After a quick search, she finds the charm tucked away under the furniture. Holding the object close, she hopes Ben is having a safe flight, completely unaware of the chaos. At a medical facility, the staff works quickly to stabilize their high-profile patient. Benjamin eventually wakes up in a hospital bed and immediately asks for an update on his family's status. He sighs with relief upon hearing that Nikki and his mother are currently out of harm's way. His assistant then reveals that a very unexpected guest has arrived to see him. Benjamin's eyes widen in disbelief at the mention of the visitor. Emily strides into the room with a confident smile, claiming he owes her a thank you for her intervention.